Ouch! There's hardly a person who's never been stung by a bee. It's definitely not a pleasant feeling. But bees aren't normally angry creatures. You probably just scared the little guy. These insects are super important for pollination. Their existence is one of the main reasons why our plants keep growing. Bees only sting when they feel threatened. If you get stung, it might mean you've come too close to them. Or, more importantly, that you've come too close to their hive. Each hive can hold between 50,000 to 80,000 honeybees. Just like us humans, bees do everything to protect their home. But instead of alarms and complicated security systems, they use their stingers to ward off enemies. When honeybees sting, they release something called a pheromone. Pheromones are chemical substances that affect the behavior of animals of the same species. If one bee charges at you, the pheromones are likely to stir up all nearby bees, and they will readily join in. That's one meeting you'll definitely want to avoid. Here's a fun fact. It's only female bees that can sting. Larger male drone bees don't even have stingers. This is because the stinger is basically a modified egg-laying device. Queen bees also have stingers. These bees are bigger than the average worker. The queen has an average size of just under 1 inch. It's about twice the size of your regular worker bee. Because of its large size, many people think that the queen bee's sting hurts the most. So let's dive into it. First of all, queen bees rarely sting because of their job in the hive. The queen is the most important bee in the colony, as it's the only female that can reproduce. The queen has 2 main jobs in the hive. Number 1, she produces chemical scents that help unify the rest of the bees so they can work together. Number 2, she lays a lot of eggs, up to 2,000 a day. The queen is surrounded by worker bees who meet her every need at all times. They give her food. The attendant workers also collect and then distribute the queen's pheromones, which stops the workers from finding a new queen. But despite being the head of the hive and being much bigger than other bees, the queen's sting is actually the least painful. This is because regular bees have barbed stingers. This means that when they attack, the stinger gets stuck in your skin, making it really difficult to remove. The stinger also contains nasty venom that's packed with proteins. That's what causes the pain and affects your immune system and skin cells. The stinger continues to pump venom into your body for more than 10 minutes, or until it gets removed. But unlike workers, queen bees leave the hive very rarely. Their main job is to lay eggs, and it's down to the rest of the colony to protect the hive and the queen. That's why worker bees are the ones with the most powerful sting. This is how they can ward off potential dangers. The only reason the queen would really need to defend herself is against rival queens. Because of this, the queen has no need to develop a nasty stinger. Hers is instead a lot smoother. This means that the barbs don't get stuck in your skin, which can be mega uncomfortable. While this might sound good, it does come with a bit of bad news. Because of the smoothness of its stinger, the queen can jab you multiple times. The stinger is attached to the bee's digestive tract, nerves, and muscles, all of which are essential for the bee to function normally. When workers sting, they're unable to pull their stinger out because of the barbs, and when they try to get free, it doesn't end well for them. But the queen's stinger doesn't get stuck. That's why the bee doesn't feel any negative consequences. And still, she'll basically only sting you if she doesn't have one of her bodyguards nearby, which is highly unlikely. So, what's the worst place to be stung by a bee? A man called Michael Smith decided to find out. He got stung on 25 different body parts and rated each prick on a pain scale between 1 and 10. He found out that the most tender area was the nostrils, scoring a 9 out of 10, followed by the upper lip, which he estimated as an 8.7. The 3 least painful locations were the skull, middle toe tip, and upper arm. All of these scored a 2.3. But moving back to the queen, how does a regular bee gain this title? The queen bee rarely needs replacing, as she can live for a whopping 5 years. At the same time, a worker bee born in the summer usually only survives for about 6 weeks. But if the queen passes away or moves to another hive, the colony needs to replace her. Doing this requires something called royal jelly, which nurse bees produce in their heads. They feed it to newly hatched honeybee larvae. It's basically a superfood that contains loads of useful stuff, including vitamin B, proteins, hormones, and sugars. After feeding baby bees for 3 days, workers select just a few larvae and continue giving them the royal jelly. The others will have a less nutritional diet. The royal jelly triggers new phases of development for these growing bees, and one of the most important is growing special organs they need to lay eggs. But people still don't fully understand how this process works. Some scientists say that it's not the royal jelly itself that causes a bee to turn into a queen. They think it's the exclusion of other natural plant-based chemicals from the queen's diet. But even though we aren't 100% sure how these special bees appear, we do know why there's just one queen in the end. When the first queen emerges, she searches for the other bees who've been fed the same royal jelly. And then she wipes out the competition. If several queens emerge at the same time, it's time to grab your popcorn. They'll Hunger Games it out in a dramatic fight until only one remains. And that's how bees get their queen. Other bees in the hive also have important jobs. These include foraging for food, tending to young larvae, and building a honeycomb. Drones, or male bees, have one singular job. They mate with the queen. And when they're not trying to mate, they eat from honey reserves and do pretty much nothing. Female bees, or worker bees, do everything else. They keep the hive clean, take care of larvae, tend to the queen, store honey, build cells, forage, guard the nest, pollinate, and even feed male bees. Each bee knows exactly what job to do. That's because their specific hormones activate parts of their genetic makeup that tell them what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. Bees have 4 job phases in their lifetime. Phase 1 starts about 3 weeks after they get born. That's when they get to work cleaning the cells from which they've emerged. 3 days later, they enter Phase 2. In this phase, they're in charge of feeding other bees. This lasts for about a week. Then they enter Phase 3. They move further away from the hive's center and become handy helpers. They build the honeycomb and guard the hive's entrance. This period also lasts for around a week. After that, they enter the 4th and final phase, the foraging stage. It's definitely the most dangerous part of our stripy friends' lives. This is where they leave the nest, look for pollen, bring it home, and feed the colony. They also leave a stinky footprint on the flowers they touch when collecting pollen. This way, they can figure out if their bee relatives have been here or if it's been a stranger. Sometimes they discover their own footprints. Unbelievable! This phase doesn't last very long though, only around 10 days, as it makes bees super tired. After such a short life where they work non-stop, worker bees then leave the hive to never return. At the same time, if a worker passes away inside the hive, special undertaker bees carry this bee out. But while bees' lives may be short, this pattern seems to be working out quite well for the species. After all, they've been around for over a whopping 130 million years, and counting.
Have you ever noticed how insects seem to get bigger in certain parts of the world? Take Australia and the Amazon rainforest, for example. They're notorious for having some of the largest and creepiest crawlies around. What's the deal with these hotspots of insect activity? Warmth plays a part in insect growth, but it's not the only factor at play. You won't get bugs that large out in the desert, for instance, despite the heat. The real secret lies in their access to water. In tropical and subtropical environments, there's usually plenty of moisture to go around, which means a year-round supply of delicious snacks. Speaking of snacks, that's where things get interesting. The warm, wet environment creates the perfect conditions for an all-you-can-eat insect buffet, which allows insects to grow and thrive over time. This is true for rats too. Just look at the giant rodents that live in cities, where they can feast on all kinds of garbage and scraps. For bugs, the perfect gem is usually found near the equator, in places like Central and Southern America, parts of Africa and Asia and Northern Australia. Have a look at this one. It's special not because of its large size. Humans rarely see this insect. It's a wood moth and was spotted at a school in Australia. The school is close to a rainforest. It holds a record for being the heaviest moth in the world. It had a wingspan measuring up to 9 inches. In Australia, there are about 60 species of wood moth, yet many aren't as big as the giant wood moth. The students get to face many animals on campus, such as bush turkeys, koalas, and snakes. But according to the principal, seeing a wood moth was a brand new thing. When we start talking about insects in Australia, it's also hard not to mention spiders. They are impressively big. Again, it's all thanks to the warm climate and abundance of food sources in the Australian bushlands. Like most cold-blooded animals, spiders tend to grow bigger in warmer places. The Australian climate, especially in the northern and central parts, is hot and humid, making it the perfect environment for spiders to grow and thrive. Spiders are also sensitive to temperature, so warmer climates provide them with longer periods to grow before reproduction. Australia's vast bushlands provide more insects for spiders to prey on, making them bigger and stronger. From the crab spider to the Australian bird-eating spider and the huntsman. Although they may look scary, most of them are not dangerous to humans. Now we can take a deep, relaxing breath. So, how do Australians handle big spiders without going crazy? I mean, we are talking about a country that is home to about 10,000 species of spiders. Australians treat spiders with respect, despite the cases of spider bites. They acknowledge that these creatures are not here to scare people. They're an irreplaceable component of the ecosystem. When they face a spider at home, they call the experts if there's no one brave enough to capture the spider and take it outside. Here are some weird-looking animals from Australia. I must admit some look creepy, and some look cool. This one here is a hot pink slug. It has a striking bright pink coloration, which is believed to be an adaptation to their environment. This creature is among the rare and endangered species. You can find it only in a single place, Mount Kaputar National Park. It's near an isolated forest on an old volcano. Insects are part of everyday life in certain parts of this country. A person was mowing the lawn and a surprise was waiting for them. They discovered this 14-inch tall insect. And this person was kind enough to fill the bird bath on a hot day. Then they noticed that birds didn't go near the bath. They wondered why and checked it out. Well, hello there. Next up, we have this giant insect, and it's still alive. Why is it such a shocking thing? Because, it was declared extinct nearly a century ago. I guess it's back from the other side? It's the Lord Howe Island stick insects, aka the tree lobsters. These giant bugs, measuring about 6 inches, used to call this place their home sweet home, but black rats had other plans. These rodents invaded the island, gobbling up everything in their path, including the poor stick insects. By 1920, the bugs were officially declared extinct, but as fate would have it, they made a comeback more than 40 years later on Ball's Pyramid, a volcanic sea stack located 12 miles away. But here's the twist. The new and improved stick insects look slightly different from their ancestors, leaving scientists scratching their heads, wondering if they were the real deal. After some scientific sleuthing and DNA testing, the verdict is in. They're the same species. With less than 1% genetic difference, these plant-eating critters are ready to make a triumphant return to their homeland. We're about to take the creepy crawlies to a whole new level. In Australia, there's a centipede that'll make you want to crawl out of your skin. I must also say these animals are nocturnal too. Can you imagine waking up with one of these 6-inch long centipedes crawling across your foot? Have you ever seen an insect that looks like it came straight out of a science fiction movie? Well, let me introduce you to the Australian walking stick. If we showed you a picture of this creepy crawler, you'd probably think we had some mad Photoshop skills. But no, this stick insect is as real as they come. It's hard to believe such a bizarre-looking creature could actually exist in nature. This just goes to show how incredible and mind-boggling nature can be. Picture this. You're wandering through your garden, minding your own business, when suddenly you walk face first into a sticky web. Before you have a chance to freak out, you see the culprit, a garden orb weaver spider. These nocturnal creatures might look scary with their large, hairy bodies and red-brown to yellow markings, but luckily they're harmless to humans. In fact, having them around can be a good thing, since they help to reduce insect pests like mosquitoes. Their webs are truly a marvel of nature, strong and nearly invisible, with a large capture area for prey. And if you accidentally break their web, don't worry. They'll usually get the hint and move somewhere else. So go ahead and enjoy your garden, but watch out for those sneaky garden orb weavers. Check out this hefty Aussie critter, the burrowing cockroach. Unlike those pesky flying roaches, these fellas are wingless and not considered a nuisance. They've got a vital role to play in the ecosystem, munching on fallen leaves and recycling other organic matter. You might find them chilling out in a cozy burrow. In fact, they're the only known cockroach with a permanent subterranean abode. These crawlies are practically celebrities in Brisbane, where they're even kept as pets. Our next subject is the Hercules moth. This little thing can only be found chillin' in New Guinea and northern Australia. Now let's talk about why the Hercules moth is so impressive. For starters, it's massive. It boasts a wingspan of 11 inches, making it the biggest moth in all of Australia. Not only that, but its wings have a surface area, making it the largest of any insect alive. Talk about impressive. When it comes to appearances, the Hercules moth is mostly golden brown and white, with see-through spots on each of its 4 wing sections. The coloring and patterns don't differ too much between males and females, but the males have longer, skinnier tails on their wings. The thing about these types of animals is that you never know where they'll fly. Will they land on your shoulder or the tree next to you? Have you ever encountered a giant insect? If yes, what did you do? Tell us your story.
Mosquitoes, bedbugs, fleas, beetles, gadflies, millions of insects out there can't wait to feast on the most delicious dessert, you. Especially if it's warm outside and you sweat a little. The good news is that not many bugs want to eat you. It's estimated that there are about 10 million species of insects in the world, and only 14,000 of them feed on your vital fluid. A few hundred among this group regularly bite people. Okay, yeah, it's still too many. But it wasn't always like that. In the distant past, insects didn't dare to attack huge animals for food. They developed their ability to feed on blood from 200 to 65 million years ago. And there are several theories why this happened. Imagine small beetles and insects living in the nest of some flying dinosaur or a giant ancient bird. They feed on bird secretions, rotten grass, leaves, or mushrooms. Then a piece of skin or a feather of an animal falls on their table. Insects taste it, and they like it. Then a dinosaur arrives, and the beetles sense a familiar smell. They climb on its skin and bite it, or they accidentally fall on an open sore of a bird and taste it. For insects, this would be the most delicious thing they had ever eaten. Yeah, I agree, it's a pretty low bar. Now, other insects have a long, thin feeding tube called a proboscis. They use it to feed on plant sap or other smaller insects. And now, one of these beetles sits on a wounded mammal and accidentally bites it. The beetle's body already has the right enzyme capable of digesting blood. So, from that moment on, the beetle doesn't want to eat anything other than red nectar. The beetle bears offspring, and it takes over the ability to feed on blood. Imagine you've been eating grass and leaves all your life, and then you try some sweet banana pudding. You wouldn't want to go back to eating good old grass now. You'd always want dessert. Insects had the same feeling when they tasted nutritious blood. Yumbo! One of the coolest theories says the thirst for blood in insects was caused by microbes. Blood isn't an ideal food for beetles. It doesn't have enough vitamins or nutrients for them. That's why a whole ecosystem of microorganisms had to form inside their intestines. These bacteria can synthesize some essential vitamins with the help of blood. These bacteria won't survive if they stop feeding on that red fluid. And when these bacteria disappear, insects have problems with development and reproduction. It's impossible to name the exact reason, since the transition from plant food to animal food happened a very long time ago. Since then, evolution has created a variety of ways to extract blood. The most famous blood-dependent species are, of course, mosquitoes. Only female mosquitoes need blood to produce eggs. When mosquitoes fly, they feel the heat, carbon dioxide, and lactic acid in the air. These smells attract the mosquitoes, so they fly to their source, an animal or a human. Then the mosquito lands on its prey and inserts its proboscis into the skin. At the same time, it secretes saliva to prevent clotting. The unpleasant skin sensation you get after the bite is an allergic reaction of your body to the mosquito saliva. Then the female produces eggs and leaves the larva in stagnant water. It could be a pond, a drain, or an outdoor pool. Small mosquitoes feed on organic substances in the water, then grow up and go on their first hunt. Black flies also feed on blood, but they don't do it as carefully as mosquitoes. The female black fly lands on the prey, uses its sharp jaws to cut the skin, and devours its lunch. Fortunately, they don't bother people too much. Their main target is livestock and wild animals. Horseflies and deer flies are the real human enemies. Their bite is quite painful. Ordinary flies that live on the street and inside human houses are super annoying, and they can feast on your skin without even biting you. Everything they need from you lies on the surface. You secrete sweat, proteins, carbs, salts, sugar, and other chemicals that the fly collects with its proboscis. And of course, it hardly understands that you're a living being and don't want to share your food with it. That's why a fly isn't afraid of you. You probably noticed that some people get bitten by insects more often than others. You could be going for a walk in the park and they get all over you, but your friend walking right next to you wouldn't feel anything. Hey, just means you're a sweetie. Scientists used to believe that some people actually just don't feel it when they get bitten. Their body doesn't have such a strong reaction to mosquito saliva. But recent studies have shown the number of bites depends on genetics and many other factors. Around 10 to 20% of people are just more attractive to predatory insects. How lucky or unlucky are they? Mosquitoes use a variety of senses to choose the perfect prey. They have carbon dioxide and humidity sensors. They also distinguish the odors of hundreds of different chemicals released by humans. Each smell has a specific meaning for different types of mosquitoes. There are thousands of nuances and shades of odors that can attract some mosquitoes and repel others. The mosquitoes that are more aggressive like things that ordinary mosquitoes can't smell. Some mosquitoes go for your legs, others like your neck. The food and drinks you consume play an important role in that too. They change the smell of your skin. The thickness of the skin, the amount of heat released, shades of color, and your blood type, all of that matters to insects. But there's something that attracts almost all insects. It's the smell of sweat. The dirtier you are, the more attractive you are to them. The unpleasant smell of sweat is created by millions of bacteria gathered on your skin. They attract mosquitoes. Some species like fresh sweat. Others prefer stale sweat with an unpleasant aroma. But if you're clean, you'll become invisible to most of the little flying monsters. The smell also depends on your genetic features. The structure of your DNA directly affects the smells you release. That's why you can say that some people are sweeter when it comes to mosquito tastes. But mosquito bites are really nothing compared to those of fire ants. When it munches on your skin, it feels like it's on fire. These ants are especially dangerous for people with allergies. Puss caterpillar is a beautifully vicious creature. It doesn't need to bite you to hurt you. This insect, also known as the southern flannel moth, is covered with thick fur hiding many poisonous thorns. A small prick with these spines, and you need medical assistance immediately. The Asian giant hornet is one of the most dangerous and painful insect bites of all. One hornet can be the size of a person's thumb, and its sting resembles a real needle. It's almost 3 times the size of a bee. These aggressive creatures can bite through clothes and even beekeepers' outfits. They attack in a huge swarm and can cause serious trouble to any animal. To fight them, people wear thick protective suits that look like spacesuits. But the main danger is that hornets attack beehives and greatly reduce the bee population. This can lead to a catastrophe on a planetary scale. Our planet and humanity need bees, not only because they produce honey. Bees pollinate flowers and plants. About a third of the world's food production would be impossible without bees. Cows eat vegetation that bees pollinate, and if all bees disappeared, it would greatly affect not only the health of cows, but all other cattle as well. A lot of fruits and berries would lose their rich taste if the bees stopped serving them. We get most of the cotton on the planet thanks to bees as pollinators. There would be a shortage of jeans and other clothes if the bees disappeared. The taste of many products would deteriorate, and the food would lose its useful properties. Whole species of flowers would disappear from the face of our planet. humanity would have a really difficult time without bees. That would be a disaster, and that's another reason why giant hornets are so dangerous, and they gotta go, if you ask me. So, there's a spooky feeding habit that caterpillars in Hawaii have been showing off. These inchworms, called geometrid larvae, are going against the norm and skipping the whole eating leaves thing. Instead, they hang out on leaves and stems, waiting for insects to come by so they can quickly snatch them up with their spiny legs. Ow! Scientists have found a bunch of these little bug hunters in Hawaii's forests and have been raising them in the lab. Turns out they belong to a group of caterpillars called Eupithecia, which normally chow down on plant stuff like flowers and leaves. But in Hawaii, around 6 of these Eupithecia species have decided to go carnivorous, opting for a diet of insect snacks instead. Maybe all that protein-rich flower pollen they've been eating has helped them unlock their inner predator. Due to the lack of predator from the mainland, these grappling inchworms have been able to thrive in Hawaii's ecosystem, unlike other invasive species causing trouble for native plants and animals. These flesh-eating caterpillars in Hawaii have evolved to occupy the ecological niche typically filled by insects like praying mantises in other regions. They're known for their quick attacks, taking only about 0.1 second to strike and devour their live prey. Hopefully, they don't get any bigger and hungrier. Rattlesnakes use their iconic rattle to warn predators like coyotes and bison to stay away or risk getting bitten. This rattling behavior evolved from ancestral tail shaking as a form of aposematic signaling. Rather than using the rattle to attract mates, the sound serves as a warning signal of the danger posed by the snake's venomous fangs. Hey, thanks for the warning. The rattling noise is created by loosely attached hollow segments of dead skin at the end of the snake's tail that click together. Recent research has shown that rattlesnakes adjust the speed of their rattling based on the proximity of a predator, creating a clever auditory illusion to deter potential threats. This sophisticated use of sound helps rattlesnakes defend themselves despite their own inability to hear the rattle. Now, scallops have a unique appearance, resembling horror movie clams with tendrils and eyes inside their mouths, despite, being delicious. Scientists have discovered that these eyes, which look like berries, could be compared to advanced telescopes. They're like tiled mirrors, capable of creating complex images similar to those formed by modern observatory telescopes. Interestingly, scallops do not have a brain, yet their eyes can form blurry images of objects. Unlike other mollusks, such as mussels, scallops have a unique eye structure similar to insects. This may explain why scallops are among the few bivalves that can swim. The numerous eyes on a scallop may help in creating a 3D view of its surroundings, with some eyes having better vision than others. These unique eyes could potentially influence the design of future telescopes, inspiring the creation of compact, wide-field imaging devices. So, the next time you enjoy a scallop dish, remember that these creatures have up to 200 tiny telescopes looking back at you. What is the purpose of hollow bones in birds? Well, birds possess unique skeletal adaptations crucial for being able to fly. One of these is hollow bones. Also known as pneumocized bones, they contain air spaces that aid in oxygen intake during flight. Air sacs are connected to these hollow areas within a bird's bones, allowing their lungs to extend throughout their skeletal structure. This intricate system helps birds absorb oxygen while breathing in and out, ultimately increasing oxygen levels in their blood and providing them with the necessary energy for flying. So, contrary to popular belief, hollow bones do not necessarily make a bird lighter. Studies show that bird bones are actually heavier compared to those animals of a similar size. In fact, the skeleton of a 2-ounce bird is denser and heavier than that of a 2-ounce mouse. This increased density results in stiffer and stronger thin hollow bones that are less likely to break. Sometimes legs are a lie. Ooh, tell me more. In a recent study, researchers delved into how caterpillars grow their signature chubby legs. They actually serve an important purpose. Caterpillars need to eat a lot to grow quickly, so having chubby legs help them move around leaves and stems efficiently. Interestingly, these chubby legs aren't actually legs at all. They're called prolegs, short nubs that help caterpillars move. The caterpillar's real legs, which turn into its adult legs as a moth or a butterfly, are near its head and are not used for walking. Even if a caterpillar loses its real legs, it can still move using its fake ones. This raises the question of what makes a leg a leg. Is it about its structure or its function? Caterpillars' unique legs are just one example of the fascinating adaptations seen in arthropods. These temporary legs help caterpillars feed and move before they transform into their final form. This fleeting glimpse into the caterpillar's world reminds us of the transitory nature of life and encourages us to appreciate these special legs while they last. These bearded dragons are cool lizards from Australia that hang out in deserts, savannas, scrublands, and subtropical forests. They're known for being real chill pets thanks to their friendly vibes, constant smile, and laid-back attitude. People love keeping them as pets, calling them beardies because of the spiky stuff on their necks. There are 8 kinds of bearded dragons, with lots of different colors and patterns developed in captivity. Even though they're doing well in their Australian homes, some of these dragons have ended up in other parts of the world through sneaky means. Though they mostly stick to the ground in the wild, they can sure climb trees when they need to show off or escape from something real spooky. Bearded dragons are now all over the world except Hawaii because they're not allowed there. Fun fact, these dragons can regrow teeth just like sharks and geckos. Some bearded dragons have been seen slurping up rainwater when it's super hot and dry outside. Bearded dragons have some quirky sleeping habits, snoozing in weird positions even when they're in their comfy tanks. They can literally stand while sleeping. They can also run pretty fast as humans. Still, they prefer taking it easy most of the time. When they do need to make a dash, they can stand up on 2 legs and zoom like a human. Mother Nature does not always adhere to strict definitions of gender. Some species have the ability to develop and maintain both male and female reproductive organs simultaneously. That's a trick. Others have the capability to switch from one gender to another, depending on various factors such as environmental conditions. These changes can provide reproductive flexibility, or may be triggered by external factors, such as rising global temperatures. Clownfish are an example of sequential hermaphrodites, born as one gender but able to transition to the opposite gender if needed. In the case of clownfish, this transformation occurs from male to female, a process known as protantry. In a group of clownfish, only 2 members are fully mature, a large male and an even larger female. If something happens to the female, the male will transform into a female and select the next biggest male in the group as the new partner. Isn't that convenient? Hawkfish are another example of a species that can change gender based on specific conditions. They start off as females and can transition to males, a process known as protogeny. Unlike other sequential hermaphrodites, hawkfish have the ability to switch back and forth between male and female, depending on circumstances within the group. Banana slugs, for example, are simultaneous hermaphrodites, able to use both male and female reproductive organs at the same time. While they can self-fertilize, most banana slugs prefer to mate with another slug. Also, research has shown that some frog species are capable of changing gender, with individuals developing fully functional reproductive organs of the opposite gender. This change, observed in both laboratory and wild studies, may be a natural occurrence in frog populations, rather than solely a response to environmental changes. So now you know. So, it's amazing how smart bumblebees are. Despite having brains the size of a poppy seed, these little insects have incredible intelligence. Recently, researchers discovered that bees have emotions and might even be sentient. For example, they can show signs of anxiety in scary situations, like a simulated predator attack. They become hesitant and cautious, even avoiding perfectly safe flowers. This indicates they might have feelings similar to what we call emotions. They can also feel discomfort and pleasure. Scientists train bees to associate colors with rewards and surprises. When the bees got a surprise treat, they acted happier and more resilient. Hey, don't you? They also put bees in situations where they had to choose between discomfort and rewards. The bees showed they could weigh the options and make decisions based on what they felt. This suggests they might experience discomfort just like we do. They can even display complex emotions like optimism, frustration, and playfulness. And these are not the only surprises bees showed us. Bees are more than just honeymakers and pollinators. There are over 25,000 different species of bees worldwide, each with its own unique lifestyle. They live in a sensory world that's totally different from ours, seeing things in ultraviolet and polarized light. They can even sense the Earth's magnetic and electrical fields. This helps them figure out which flowers have already been visited by other bees. A big moment in bee evolution happened way back in the Jurassic period. Their ancestors decided to switch from wandering around to settling down in nests. This change required them to remember the location of their home base, or else they'd be in big trouble. So their brains adapted, and certain areas grew larger and more complex to handle all the new information. And now, millions of years later, they've turned into incredibly smart creatures. They can even solve math puzzles. Boy, I could have used some bees in middle school. Yeah, that's right. Bees seem to grasp the concepts of addition and subtraction. Researchers set up special math mazes shaped like the letter Y for the bees to navigate. Instead of using numbers or symbols, which bees can't understand, they used colors. Blue meant add 1, and yellow meant subtract 1. The bees had to choose the right path based on the colors they saw at the beginning of the maze. After some training, where the bees completed 100 trips through the mazes, they seemed to get the hang of it. Then came the test. The little insects got the correct answer more often than not, better than what you would expect by chance. This doesn't mean bees are doing complex math in their heads, but they might have flexible brains that can learn new tasks, even if they don't use them in the wild. They also showed an understanding of the concept of zero. Scientists trained them to recognize the smaller of two numbers. They showed the bees pictures with different numbers of shapes, rewarding them with sweet sugar water if they chose the picture with fewer shapes. But if they went for the picture with more shapes, they got a bitter taste of quinine. Yuck. Once the bees got the hang of it, the researchers introduced a new option, a blank picture with no shapes at all. And the bees chose the empty picture over images with 2 or 3 shapes almost half the time. This suggests that they understood that 0 means less than 2 or 3. In further tests, the bees showed they could tell the difference between 1 and 0. This might help them keep track of predators or find food sources more efficiently. And if bees can understand 0, who knows how many other animals out there can do the same? Not only can bees learn and remember new things, but they can also teach these things to each other, just like we do. Scientists set up a tricky puzzle box in a lab and trained some bumblebees to solve it. First, expert bees figured the puzzle out. Then, they taught their clueless buddies how to crack it. Turns out, not only humans can pass on knowledge in this way. In another experiment, bees were given a puzzle to solve over several days. Despite having plenty of time to crack it, they couldn't do it without a little human help. But once they saw the solution, they were quick to catch on. It's also discovered that if there's a super genius bee in the group, its clever ideas might stick around and shape their societies for generations, surprisingly similar to humans. Even behaviors we thought were purely instinctive, like the famous honey dance, seem to be influenced by social learning. Bees can even be taught to use tools. a skill previously thought to be limited to certain mammals, birds, and other creatures. They devised a test where bees had to move a tiny ball to the center of a platform to get a sweet reward. Bees don't do stuff like this in the wild, so biologists had to teach them. Using a plastic bee on a stick, the researchers demonstrated the task to the bees. After a few days of training, the bees began dragging the ball to the center all by themselves. And once again, they showed other bees how to do it. What's interesting is that they didn't just copy blindly. When faced with new situations, they improved on what they had learned, choosing the most efficient route to success. For instance, when given a choice between different colored balls, the bees picked the one closest to the center, even though they had been trained with different conditions. This shows that bees aren't just following instructions, they're thinking and adapting to new challenges. Now, we used to think of bees as a homogeneous workforce. It's a huge hive mind, where everyone is tirelessly serving their queen. But this view is also being challenged by fascinating new research. Turns out, honeybees have distinct personalities. For example, some bees are more adventurous, while others prefer to stay close to the hive. A small percentage of bees, known as nest scouts, exhibit a thrill-seeking behavior by venturing out in search of new hive locations. These brave scouts are not only more likely to seek out new nest sites, but also to engage in food scouting. And there are huge differences in gene activity in the brains of scouting bees compared to their non-scouting counterparts. The brains of scout bees showed heightened activity in reward systems. That's where their preference for novel experiences comes from. It's very similar to novelty-seeking behavior in humans and other animals. Sometimes their personalities are even shaped by their memories and previous experiences. Some bees even showed signs of PTSD. So, in the hive, bees choose their jobs based on their personality traits. They can also be trained to detect any smell. They have a huge sensitivity to volatiles, and thanks to that, they can even detect diseases. Bees were trained to associate the scent of infected samples with a sugar-water reward. With repeated exposure, the bees quickly learned to extend their tongues in response to the scent alone, without the need for a reward. Thanks to that, they were able to detect infected samples within seconds. This worked with both mink and human samples. They showed very accurate results in distinguishing between infected and healthy samples. Now, we're trying to scale up this innovative approach and develop prototypes of machines capable of automatically training multiple bees simultaneously. This technology has the potential to serve as an effective diagnostic system, especially in low-income countries. And there are many more things bees can do. They can learn while sleeping, which means they can dream and see dreams of things they saw during the day. They can also remember human faces. They memorize unique features and can recognize them through repeat interactions. In one study, scientists paired images of human faces with sugar water and found that bees recognized and remembered faces associated with the sweet reward, even when the reward was absent. This also helps them to recognize each other and return to flowers that produce more pollen. So, what does this mean for us? Well, if it's true that bees actually feel emotions and have some sort of sentience, this changes how we should treat them. They're already an endangered species. Now we should treat them with much greater care. So, be careful around the bees. Now, it's obvious who can win a fight between a bee and a giant hornet. It's like a battle between a kitten and a saber-toothed tiger. And an army of bees against an army of hornets is like hundreds of kittens against hundreds of lions. It seems the hornets will win because one hornet can destroy more than 1,000 bees in less than an hour and a half. But if this battle happens in real life, it will be more complicated, dramatic, and unexpected than you can imagine. A group of bees works all day. They pollinate plants and fruits and collect nectar from flowers. They work hard and return home to the hive at the end of the day. They don't notice an imposter flying among them, a giant hornet. It's bigger than one bee, but has the same yellow-black color. No one pays any attention to it. The imposter enters the bee house without an invitation and makes a crackling sound. That's how its jaws snap. Hungry and angry, it begins the feast. In a matter of seconds, the hornet puts the hive into chaos. The hornet has a sting with toxic venom, but it can go without it here. For bees, the monster uses its sharp jaws. The hive citizens attack the enemy, but it doesn't feel a thing. The situation is getting worse because bees can't live after using their sting. They sacrifice their lives to protect their home, to protect the queen. Unfortunately, all their attempts are in vain. After quenching its thirst, the hornet flies away to find new prey. Only one bee manages to survive. It escapes from the hive to warn the others. The bee visits every hive in the valley and reports the powerful enemy. All bees start preparing to attack. They're raising an army. Unfortunately, this is not enough. The giant hornet visits a new hive, but this time bees are ready. They attack the enemy from all sides. For a moment, it seems bee stings are working. The hornet is weakening, its activity is falling. The hope of victory inspires bees with confidence, but not for long. At this moment, 10 other hornets fly into the hive. The first hornet marked the hive with a unique pheromone before the battle. This smell attracted its friends, and now the bees have no chance. In the wild, hornets leave the trace so others can find the tagged location. In a few minutes, 11 hornets destroy the hive of 25,000 bees. Recently, this sunny land was blooming thanks to bees. Now it has turned into a lifeless valley. Giant hornets don't want to spend time searching for hives, so they divide into groups and fly to different sides of the valley. They mark bee houses with the pheromone and start a large-scale cleanup. Their hunger and thirst for destruction are insatiable. Yeah, bees now know their enemy and notice it as soon as a hornet appears in the air, but it doesn't help. In each battle, they use a lot of strategies to fight it. Once bees tried to attack a hornet hive, but it was a pointless mission. No one pollinates flowers anymore. No one makes honey. Bees live in fear and are afraid to fly out of their hives. In this dark hour, when almost no hope's left, a slight chance of victory appears. A species of Japanese bees learned to defeat the enemy. The news spread all over the hives. The strategy seems to be working. They've managed to fight off several giant hornets. The fear goes away, and the bees are ready to fight again. In the real world, these bees learn to fight giant hornets, but other species can't do that. So bees are waiting for the enemy. They all know what to do. Finally, a giant hornet appears. Hundreds of bees attack it and wrap it with their bodies from all sides. They completely cover the hornet and start to tremble. The simultaneous vibration of all the bees heats up the enemy. The temperature is getting higher. The hornet can't get out. Bees seem to burn it with the energy of their bodies. A few minutes later, the giant hornet falls. Bees throw it out of the hive. Now they are confident of their victory. Another hornet arrives. Tired bees attack it and start to vibrate again. The next monster is coming, and another one. 10, 20, 100 hornets arrive. Bees don't have so many resources and energy. The chances to win are zero again. To win once and for all, the bees must unite. All the hives, hundreds of millions of bees. A huge, lifeless meadow is the location for the final battle. All the bees of the valley flock here. They are ready for the last fight. Silence ensues. Then the air begins to vibrate. You can hear the buzzing of hornets from afar. They have increased their population hundreds of times because none of the animals can resist them. The defeat of bees is inevitable, but no one is going to back down. Two swarms collide with each other. This is not a battle. This is destruction. Hundreds of thousands of bees, but zero hornets fall to the ground in a few minutes. A whole species of insects are disappearing from the planet. But what is it? The field plugs into a strange fog. Bees and hornets don't see each other. Then, through the white veil, they appear. Silhouettes of giant creatures. They come into the middle of the action. Thousands of hornets attack them, but it's all pointless. Bees quickly fall down and lose consciousness. The hornets pass out too. Some are trying to fly away, but the fog doesn't let them. All insects fall asleep. Someone used gas to stop this fight. And this someone is the bee's main ally. A human has come into the game. In thick protective suits, people picked up euthanized hornets from the ground. They put them in one basket and the bees in another. The collection of insects lasts for several hours. Then the bees wake up in their hives unharmed. Hornets wake up in special containers. They're trapped, and now they can't hurt anyone. People are destroying hornets' nests all over the world. They won't allow them to multiply. Bees are responsible for the cycle of life in nature. They help many plants to reproduce, thanks to pollination. Bees serve as berries and fruits we eat. They take care of flowers that cows and other livestock feed on. Thanks to bees, we grow a lot of cotton. If the hornets destroy them, there will be a shortage of clothes made of this material. T-shirts, jeans, jackets, all this will be more expensive and then will disappear from the markets. Many products will lose their rich taste and useful properties. Animals and people won't get enough vitamins. Cows won't produce milk. There will be no cheese, sour cream, butter, and other food. You won't be able to order a juicy burger at the restaurant. Eggplants, hot peppers, kiwi, blueberries, cranberries, and much more will disappear from the counter. Whole species of animals and plants will stop existing. This will lead to other crises, not only in agriculture, but also in the global economy. Meanwhile, the number of hornets will be growing. There are almost no animals in the world to control them. If people don't do anything, everyone will have to wear thick protective suits to walk outside. Hornets will get into houses and cars, attack people and pets. One giant hornet can cause a lot of trouble. Its sting is one of the most dangerous and painful among all other insects. It's like a red-hot needle. When a hornet sticks it into an opponent, it injects the poison into the skin. This toxin dilates the walls of blood vessels. The area around the bite turns red. This can last for several hours or even days. The hornet is an aggressive creature. It can sting several times. Imagine what a group of these insects can do. To escape, you need to hide in bushes with dense foliage or jump into the water. After the hornets fly away, urgently contact the hospital. Hornets can make people's lives worse. It's important to fight them. Unfortunately, bees can't do this. They're absolutely defenseless. Humanity is aware of this danger and does everything to control the hornets' population. That's why giant hornets have no chances in this fight. Now, every bee returns to its usual way of life: pollination, nectar extraction, honey production in hives. The valley is blooming again. Bees can sleep peacefully. People monitor the situation and watch for giant hornets. If one enemy appears, it means there's a nest somewhere. Special services track down the insects and find nests under old trees and in pits.
Doink! What was that on your arm? A bee. Great. Not exactly a pleasant feeling. Painful, itchy, annoying, scary. We've all been there before. So, that happens because the bee jabs its barbed stinger into your skin and releases some venom. The venom contains proteins that cause pain and can affect your immune system and skin cells. But that's nothing compared to what the bee has to go through. Poor little thing. You'll be fine after a few hours, but the bee? Not so much. Honeybees don't usually sting people unless they feel threatened or if you accidentally step on them. The problem is that after stinging you, the bee can't pull its barbed stinger out of your skin. The only way to get free is to leave the stinger behind. The stinger, though, not just a sweet defense mechanism, it also contains part of the bee's digestive tract, nerves, and muscles that are, unfortunately, essential for the bee to function normally. So, yep, after losing all that, this tiny creature doesn't survive. Yikes. Poor little bee. Apart from that, they're such cool animals. They have 5 eyes, 2 pairs of wings, and 6 legs. Bees have excellent survival instincts, and they've been around for a really long time. 130 million years and counting. Who knows what ancient species they've stung? Most bees in the hive are called worker bees, and the big cheese is called the queen. She lays around 2,000 eggs per day. Sound like a lot? Well, the average hive contains 50,000 bees, and they disappear after just one sting. I guess going through a painful and itchy experience doesn't actually sound that bad when you only have one bee on your arm. Imagine if you had the whole hive. It may seem like bees just aimlessly fly around or use their vision to decide where they go. But these cool insects are pretty organized and rely on a super complex transport system. Imagine planning a cross-country road trip, only this time, there are no roads. I can't even make it to the gym without my GPS, or if I stop at a burger joint on the way there. But not bees. They're way cooler than us. They use bee lines. Well, I call them that. They're basically a series of insect pathways bees tend to follow through human towns or the countryside. These pathways link every existing wildlife area together. It's like a bee railway system. My favorite bee is the buff-tailed bumblebee. It has an oval-shaped body covered in dense hair and a brain the size of a poppy seed. Considering how small it is, that's really impressive. How smart are they? Scientists made an experiment where they trained a bunch of them to play bee soccer. They even learned how to score a goal in return for a sweet sugary treat. Unbelievable! These same bees have another amazing ability. They use their smelly footprints to distinguish between the scents of strangers, their own bee relatives. They can even recognize their own scent. Bumblebees, we know your dirty little secret. You have smelly feet. And then there's the queen bee. She's unique in her colony, and her main task? Laying eggs. People often assume the queen is there to tell the other bees exactly what to do. Yeah, not really. She does have a certain influence, but even without her, the hive actually functions pretty well. Each bee has a job and knows its daily functions and tasks because of its instincts and the chemical signals it senses and uses. So, I guess no one needs to tell them how to behave. Those chemical signals are their way of communicating. Oh, and they know how to shake it. They wiggle their bodies at specific angles for a certain amount of time. That's how they send messages to each other. If something happens to the queen bee and she doesn't survive, worker bees create a new one. Yep, they don't find one, but sort of raise a new one. They choose a young larva and feed the future Her Majesty a special food called royal jelly. That lucky larva can now grow into the new queen. Bees are fast. They can beat their wings almost 200 times a second. Those 8 push-ups I can do in a minute, not sounding so impressive. Each bee produces around 1 teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. To produce 1 pound of honey, bees have to fly the equivalent of 1 whole time around the globe. These hardworking animals make around 100 million trips to about 200 million flowers to collect enough nectar for that pound of honey. Honeybees sleep 5 to 8 hours a day, and just like us, they rest at night. Their brains are pretty active when they're resting. Some scientists think they may be dreaming, also just like us. When winter rolls around, a lot of insects replace their body water with a special chemical called glycerol. It's a type of natural antifreeze that helps them stay alive in low temperatures. Bees, though, they just huddle together in the hive to stay toasty warm. Alright, enough about bees. Let's whip round the animal kingdom looking for crazy facts. Bats could eat 1,000 insects an hour if they were insanely hungry. They're the only mammal that can fly, and their bones are so thin, most of them can't even walk. Insects, for the most part, don't have ears on their heads. Instead, they have them all over their bodies. Snails can sleep for 3 years without waking up. Slugs have 4 noses, so they better avoid those stinky feet bumblebees. Butterflies are quite simple and practical animals that taste with their feet and only feed on liquids. They're cold-blooded, so if it gets below 55 degrees, they can't fly, look for food, or escape a sticky situation. Their main defense tactic is camouflage. Works pretty well until it gets cold. The opposite strategy is having vibrant, colorful patterns that let everyone know where you are. Colorful insects are often toxic, so birds and bigger insects tend to leave them alone. Wasps recognize their relatives by identifying unique facial patterns. Ants don't have lungs. Instead, they breathe through small holes all over their bodies. Also, they almost never sleep, but they do love to nap. Ants are incredibly strong and can carry more than 50 times their own weight. If you were that strong, you'd be able to carry an adult elephant. You know, like if it's stepping on your toe and you want to get it off you. For every human, there are more than 1 million ants, and over 200 million insects. Luckily, they're smaller than us. If they weren't, we'd be the ants. You can hypnotize a frog if you place it on its back and gently stroke its stomach with your fingers. What if that worked on humans? Hey, wanna hang out? I know a sloth does. Its weird biology allows it to spend most of its life just hanging upside down from a tree. A sloth is so slow it takes around a month to totally digest food. Rhinos have horns made out of the same stuff as hair. Scientists trained pigeons to be able to tell the difference between famous artists Claude Monet and Pablo Picasso. Okay, wait. Even pigeons are smarter than me now? Just when you think pandas can't get any cuter, check this out. When they're born, pandas weigh around 4 ounces and are smaller than a mouse. Animals that have a super fast metabolism inside a small body, like squirrels do, see in slow motion. They evolved this feature to be able to escape bigger animals. That's cool. When you think about it, it really makes them powerful. Squirrels usually run away from their enemies by scampering off in a zigzag pattern. Because? No idea. Sorry, people. They tend to bury their food in many different places. Since it's impossible to keep an eye on all their hiding spots, other animals like to sneak over and steal their goods. That's why squirrels sometimes only pretend to bury their food somewhere, to throw off any potential thieves. Oh, how nutty of them. An ostrich has a brain smaller than its eye, but it has really strong legs. It can run faster than a horse. Flamingos only eat when their heads are turned upside down.
You know, it's a good thing, but some animals clearly let you know they're no joke. Sharks with rows and rows of razor-sharp teeth, a scorpion's venomous stinger, the ominous sound of a rattlesnake about to strike. You get the picture. Yet plenty of seemingly harmless creatures wreak more havoc than even the scariest animals out there. Like the spotted lanternfly, a pretty little bug from parts of Taiwan, Vietnam, and northern China that managed to bring its own terror around the world. Yikes! Let me explain. Only about as big as the tip of your thumb, this bug is easily identifiable. It has gray or brownish forewings with black spots. Under those, you have bright red hind wings that make this critter a real beauty. But don't be fooled. This insect can be an ecosystem's worst nightmare. And it's on the move, traveling to Korea, Japan, and even across the ocean to Middle America. Along the way, it's damaged countless plant species. In the US, it's been infesting maple and birch trees. So, what's the big deal? The lanternfly pierces the tissue of leaves and stems. Then it slurps out the sap. This leaves a sugary coat on the leaves that allows mold to thrive. The plant or tree can't grow after that, and it eventually wilts. This can then impact food production, trees, and developing forests. Now, don't worry too much. This bug doesn't bite or sting people, but the plant loss they cause is enough to get the highest authorities involved in the case. Stepping off the land and diving into the ocean, we see a creature whose body is covered with venomous spines. Meet the crown of thorns starfish. It spends its days crawling around and feeding on coral. That's usually great for the local ecosystem. They eat the super fast-growing corals, giving the slower species a chance to catch up in the race. But when the starfish grows too large in numbers, the real problems start. They can quickly eat up vast parts of the coral reef system. This starfish is even partly to blame for the huge losses in Australia's Great Barrier Reef. A 2012 study showed that they were one of two leading causes of coral loss in the last 27 years, them and tropical cyclones. Even worse, their spines produce a neurotoxin that causes a sharp stinging pain that lasts for hours. If you happen to touch or step on one of these starfish, the spines can break off into your skin. Next comes possible infection and a series of other problems. So, stay away from this one. Next up, we have the common carp. You might know the colorful version of this fish, the koi. Those were specially bred to look more vivid. Carps are freshwater bottom feeders. They eat plants, animals, algae, and other microorganisms living in the mud in rivers and lakes. The problem is, their feeding lowers the water quality. Carp uproot the plants they munch on and make the water cloudy. That doesn't allow enough light to get through, so some species struggle. They also produce large amounts of nitrogen. This makes the water uninhabitable for other fish. And that's why many people consider them pests. Unbelievably, the elephant is also on this list of nature's terrors. To find food and water, these giants roam across vast territories. Along the way, they break branches, pull up bushes, and push over entire trees. If they uproot a few here and there, it's usually easy for forests to recover from the damage. But the situation got bad enough at one point for scientists to be concerned. Trees throughout East Africa were severely damaged by passing elephants. Keep in mind, the gentle giants weren't entirely at fault. At the time, there were many fires pushing the elephants on the move. And it isn't all bad either. After elephants munch on their fruits and veggies, they transport the seeds miles away. Ooh, how do they do that? Oh yeah, elephant doo-doo. Then new trees start to grow, and when there's no available water, they dig deep holes in the ground with their feet, trunks, and tusks. That also helps other thirsty animals in the area. Other ecosystem wreckers are kangaroos. Australia's been struggling with the animal's overpopulation recently. A decade of wet weather brought a lot of food and abundant marsupials. They went from 27 million in 2010 to 45 million in 6 years. Kangaroos started wiping out native plants, and many animals were left without food and habitat. By stripping the grasses anchoring down the ground, they cause erosion in areas that struggle to preserve the soil. Locusts form enormous swarms and spread across areas, destroying crops in their path. This leads to a shortage of food, and some species can't survive. The most notorious are the desert locusts that live in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. In quiet times, they cover an area of 6 million square miles. That's almost twice the size of Canada. But during a spike in their numbers, they can cover 1/5 of the Earth's land. A regular swarm that blackens the skies can be 460 miles in size. It contains 60 million locusts every half a mile. Each locust eats its weight in plants every day. A swarm the size of Paris can eat the same amount of food in a day as half of France's population. Goats are nothing to scoff at either. They're voracious eaters with an appetite for shrubs, trees, and all sorts of plants. They can turn rich, dense woodlands into barren grasslands when left to do as they please. The problem became more noticeable in Australia and other isolated islands, where people tried to start a settlement. They dig into the Earth's crust with their hooves, the goats, not the people. When the weather's bad, winds will transport the loose soil and erosion begins. Another cute yet invasive species is the cane toad. They became successful invaders in Oceania, the Caribbean, the US, and a few other places. In fact, they were first introduced to eradicate other pests, but ended up becoming pests themselves. Cane toads are toxic, and scientists link them with the extinction of several species in northern Queensland. They're dangerous to wildlife since their poison glands can take out birds, mammals, fish, and reptiles. They'll compete for food, and they'll eat anything they can swallow: kitchen scraps, your pet's food, and even other animals. Some species will multiply in rotting wood, but the mountain pine beetle will exterminate live trees. The insects invaded the Canadian Rockies, and millions of acres have been affected. They strike live trees by laying eggs under the bark. That disrupts the phloem, basically a plant's vascular system, like veins in humans, and stops the circulation. Eventually, the trees turn brown and rot. It takes them 2 weeks to wipe out the outer layer of a tree. They're pretty robust too, since they're a resistor to temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Once they infest a tree, it's a goner. Jellyfish have been part of the global ecosystem for 500 million years. But now it seems like they're taking over the seas, maybe even the world. Recent strong winds and hot weather spells have pushed large numbers of blue-bottle jellyfish near the shores. There, hordes of them have been stinging large numbers of people. In 2018, more than 1,000 people were stung in Florida. In 2019, 13,000 cases were recorded in Queensland, Australia, in just 1 week. It doesn't end there. In 2011, 2 reactors had to be shut down in Scotland because jellyfish started blocking the cooling filters. Something similar happened in Sweden in 2013 with a power plant being shut down. In 1999, an island in the Philippines had a complete blackout because of jellyfish. Too many jellies can trigger a deterioration in the ecosystem. But even though they multiply like crazy, the numbers aren't alarming, at least not yet. One of the world's most invasive species, but probably not for the reasons you're thinking, are rats. They're expert survivors, and that makes them dangerous when they're introduced to new areas. Like the time black rats invaded Lord Howe Island in the Tasman Sea. They destroyed crops, gobbled up the fruits and seeds of many local plants, and prevented them from reproducing. They also took bird eggs from nests and ate anything in their path. Experts believe that mice first appeared in the area in 1850. Rats showed up in 1918 when they escaped from a sinking ship. In a century, they played a massive role in the extinction of 5 local bird species, 13 invertebrates, and 2 plants. It got to the point that a zoo took in flocks of 2 other endangered bird species to help them survive. There were 150,000 rats and 200,000 mice on the island. but a nearly extinct bird species successfully went back home after eradication. And lastly, there's humans. Come on, need I explain?
In 2008, NASA had an intriguing question. How do spiders construct their webs in zero gravity? Therefore, they sent 2 spiders to the International Space Station. The first spider was the main participant, while the second served as a backup in case the first one didn't survive. However, things didn't go according to plan. The backup spider managed to escape from its chamber and visited its companion, resulting in a bit of a mess. They built tangled webs that interfered with each other. As if that wasn't enough, the flies that were supposed to be food for the spiders started reproducing faster than anticipated. Their larvae escaped from their container and covered the front window of the chamber. Over time, the spiders were completely hidden behind the larvae. Although this initial experiment didn't go well, one of the researchers involved in planning the spider experiment was still curious. In 2011, she got another opportunity to repeat the same experiment. This time, she sought assistance from other researchers. They decided to send a different species of spider into space and prepared 4 spiders, 2 for the ISS and 2 for Earth, allowing for result comparison. The goal was to expose the spiders to varying gravity conditions and observe their behavior. However, another twist appeared in the story. Initially, they believed they had 4 female spiders, but it turned out that 2 of them were actually males. Determining the sex of young spiders can be tricky, but fortunately, one male had already been sent to space, while the other remained on Earth, enabling valuable data collection. The second experiment proved successful. The spiders were active. They built and dismantled webs, and even without the assistance of gravity, they spun new ones. 3 cameras captured thousands of pictures, showcasing their hard work on the webs. Interestingly, it seemed that spiders created significantly more symmetrical webs in space than on Earth. The center of the webs was closer to the middle, and surprisingly, the spiders didn't always position their heads downward as they typically do on Earth. However, one significant factor made all the difference: light. When the spiders on the ISS had a source of light, they weaved asymmetrical webs, similar to those found on our home planet. Light played a crucial role in orienting the spiders in space. The chamber's lamps were attached at the top. If the lights had been positioned differently, for example on the side, it would have been challenging to observe the effect of light on the symmetry of webs in zero gravity. When the lights were turned off, the spiders rested in random orientations within their webs. Yet with the lights on, they would orient themselves away from the light source, which meant downward. Hence, in the absence of gravity, light assisted them in orientation. This discovery was unexpected, because spiders can typically build their webs in the dark and capture prey effectively, even without light. Spider's web itself is such a cool thing wherever they are. It's like these creatures have small silk production factories inside them. Within their body, a thread is stored in the form of a highly concentrated liquid. And a regular garden spider can produce up to 7 different types of silk, each having a unique combination of proteins. Each type of silk has a different purpose. For example, one type of thread makes the web elastic, which means the web absorbs the impact when insects collide with it. Another type of silk makes the thread flexible and strong, so it's more difficult to break. Some proteins found in the silk protect it from harmful bacteria and fungi, allowing the web to last longer. They also keep the silk moist so it doesn't dry out. Wow, imagine having a home where you don't have to buy anything extra to maintain it. Spider silk is lighter than cotton and incredibly thin, up to 1,000 times thinner than human hair. But it's also insanely strong. I mean, it must be, since that's what they rely on while living their everyday life. Whether they're preying on some wandering insect or trying to resist heavy rain and wind. But you wouldn't expect it to be stronger than steel, right? Of course, in reality, you don't come across steel that thin. But if you could find a piece with the same weight as spider silk, you'd see that it has similar strength when pulled or stretched. In fact, spider silk is 5 times stronger than steel of the same thickness. Spider silk is also super stretchy, able to stretch up to 4 times its original length without breaking. Plus, It remains strong even in freezing temperatures below -40 degrees F. The most common type of spider is the orb weaver. They're masters at building those webs you keep seeing in open areas. That's where they have a better chance to catch a tasty lunch. But since they choose such spots, their webs are more prone to damage. That's why these spiders have a fascinating habit. They often rebuild their entire webs every day, even if the current web seems perfectly fine. I wish I was this dedicated to maintaining my bedroom. These spiders actually do this because they want to be prepared for the evening when they patiently wait for their potential prey to get caught in their carefully set trap. At first, this might seem like a waste of time. After all, they need to invest a significant amount of protein to produce the silk that forms their webs. But even if an orb weaver spider doesn't catch its meal overnight, it usually has enough silk proteins to dismantle its old web and build a new one for the following night. As the spider removes the old web, it consumes the silk at the same time, and by doing that, recycles the proteins it contains. If you've ever observed a spider on its web, you must have noticed how attentively it responds to even the slightest vibrations. It turns out that spider silk can be finely adjusted to different sound frequencies, unlike any other material. When a spider builds its web, it doesn't just spin the silk and leave it as it is. The spider actually makes adjustments to the silk by changing how tight or loose it is and how different threads are connected. This way, it creates a web that can vibrate or make different kinds of sounds. The spider is like a musician tuning their guitar. This feather-legged lace weaver is called the garden center spider because it mostly enjoys humid greenhouse conditions, and it has a really cool way of catching insects. Instead of spinning sticky webs like other spiders, it uses electricity. It produces incredibly thin silk, almost at the nanoscale. And on its hind legs, this spider has special hairs that act like tiny combs. As the silk emerges from its body, the spider uses these hairs to comb and manipulate the silk. And here's where the magic happens. This process generates an electric charge. The threads of the silk are now crackling with electricity, so they come together to form little poofs that resemble fluffy balls of wool. These electrically charged poofs are a great way to trap innocent insects wandering around. When unsuspecting prey comes into contact with them, the electric charge causes the threads to cling to their bodies, making it almost impossible to get away. Female Darwin's bark spiders make gigantic webs that can stretch over rivers and lakes, which means they can reach over 80 feet across. It turns out such enormous webs are just a part of their genius plan to catch their prey. A super strong web that goes across the water like a bridge can capture large insects that gracefully fly above the water's surface, like dragonflies, and it's an impressive project that takes days to construct. These special lines go across the river and anchor the web firmly to each bank. There's no easy way out of this.
Daddy longlegs get a pretty bad rap. Someone started a rumor for some reason that of all the spiders in the world, the daddy longlegs are the most venomous. Of all the 45,000 species of spiders, daddy longlegs were at the top of the charts as the most potentially dangerous. Gifted with the most threatening venom towards humans, they acquired quite the reputation. But unfortunately, their fangs also were too small to penetrate skin, so their amazing capabilities were deemed useless. Imagine having a superpower without the ability to use it. This fact might have come from someone's friend of a friend a long time ago, and unfortunately for old bouncy legs, the fact stuck. The daddy longlegs spider is recognized throughout the world, but its actual name is Falcidae, which is part of the Araneomorph family. The Falcidae consists of up to 1,800 individual species, all ranging in different sizes and variations, most having the distinct similar long bouncy legs with a small body. They are present on every continent of the world except Antarctica, but regardless of which part of the planet they're from, they all share that same supposed reputation of impressive venom, with no teeth to use it. The origin story of how their venom was recognized as so strong was that they were notorious all over the world for being able to remove other, more dangerous spiders. Any spider that was known to be threatening towards humans competed for territory with the daddy longlegs and lost. They defeated redbacks and black widows, even larger spiders like huntsmen. Every competitor was beaten. And for that reason, this ridiculous spider became the undisputed world champion. From the northern hemisphere to the south, from Australia to North America, in Africa, Asia, and all around Europe, the daddy longlegs took on all challengers, removing venomous spiders from households all over the world. As its reputation grew, it was portrayed that it must have the strongest venom, as no contender could match it. And there the legend rested. Actual facts were neglected, like cobwebs in the wind. But in fact, their venom is incredibly weak, so weak that it's not even very useful. It has little effect on the more venomous spiders, and is only useful towards smaller insect prey. But it does have a different, more impressive way of defeating all challengers in the spider world. Rather than bouncing over and trying to wrestle a foe awkwardly, the daddy longlegs casts its silk web onto its contenders from a distance, whilst keeping itself away from harm. Then, once it's safe, it ties them up until they're completely incapacitated. What's more, their own silk doesn't have any adhesive properties, so when they come for another spider, they usually roll it in its own sticky web. They're basically the cowboys of the spider world, coolly lassoing all dangers of the household, removing hazardous spiders and all other pesky insects. And for their selfless assistance, the only gratitude we've provided are urban legends about their supposed inadequacies, and a quick removal with a vacuum cleaner. It's a shame to remove the daddy longlegs from a house, as they are passive towards humans. They reside in dark and cool places, where moisture is more prominent, like a bathroom or a basement. Since they're predators, they will only live where there is a constant source of food. So if you see them in your house, then that's a good indication that you have a lot more types of bugs living in other, more inconspicuous locations. Understanding that there are more bugs under your hard-to-reach places, removing the daddy longlegs is effectively removing a bug remover, who not only works for free, but is a much more efficient hunter of bugs than your vacuum cleaner. They will not only remove the resident bugs, but all the hundreds of eggs that are hidden away, incubating, preparing to hatch in the near future. Perhaps the thought of them being a hunter may give you some apprehension of keeping them around, especially as you sleep. Further with the myth that a human inhales up to 10 spiders per year on average while sleeping. Since they don't mean humans any harm, there's no need to worry, especially given the difference in size. Predators generally won't attack anything they can't successfully take down, which won't be anything much larger than themselves. Given humans are over 1,000,000 times bigger in size, we just aren't worth the risk for any spider, even if we're sleeping. The myth that we eat spiders in our sleep is false. There is nothing for a spider to hunt for around a human. A giant, meaty, growling mountain is the last place to find a spider trying to find its dinner. But if you do have a bad case of arachnophobia and are brave enough, simply get an empty jar and a piece of paper. Carefully place the daddy longlegs in the jar and release it into the backyard. They're more than happy to live in the bark of trees or under rocks, protecting your garden from other insects. There are 3 types of daddy longlegs: the spider variety, the crane fly one, and the Apeliones, which are more related to scorpions than spiders. The Apeliones have helped provide confusion with their spider counterpart, sharing similar features, residing in the same parts of the world, and even known for the same misinformation. In particular, for the urban legend of being the most venomous. Not only do these not have any venom glands, but they don't even have fangs, just grasping claws. Due to these physical traits, they are restricted to prey on small insects. Though their diet partially contains bugs, they are omnivorous, also feeding upon plant material and fungi. So, the Apeliones are mainly found outdoors, unless you happen to be growing mushrooms in your basement. Their primary defenses are to avoid detection, camouflaging themselves in foliage whilst holding very still, and sometimes placing debris on top of themselves. Some species will have bright coloring to ward off predators, and others will have a similar appearance to other insects to create confusion, all in the hopes of avoiding becoming a meal. As they aren't strictly an aggressor in the wild, they have a multitude of secondary defenses to avoid conflict. Using their long legs, they might retract or stretch them to resemble becoming inactive and pointless in being attacked. Also, they might bob up and down with the objective to confuse, constantly moving their small body. They do this individually, and as they can live in very large groups, they will collectively move this way when threatened. Their long legs, although strange in appearance, are one of their best assets. As well as dancing defensively, they can also flee very effectively, bounding over obstacles with ease. Normally, when in groups, they will all scatter in different directions. Their best defense is their scent glands, providing a smelly shield to ward off predators, letting them know they won't be a tasty meal. Although they can't physically defeat any spiders, the scent gland defense is known to help avoid some of the most brutal of spider predators, such as the wolf spider. Another effective way to deter predators is the form of mimicry, quietly pretending to be another insect, and likely trying to appear like its spider counterparts. This act of defense has probably helped the confusion between the daddy longlegs species. The crane fly is the last of the three that represent daddy longlegs. It looks like a giant mosquito and lives in similar areas around marshes, rivers, and lakes. With the typical traits of its namesake, the long drooping legs, it's known as the worst flying insect. Its limbs are so large, it wobbles as it flies, looking like it's struggling to maintain its flight. The crane fly's larvae are also known as leather jackets due to their tough outer skin. They're very important in the soil ecosystem as they process organic material, increasing microbial activity. So why are they even called daddy longlegs? There isn't anything scientific behind the meaning. There was a mention of the crane fly back in 1744, referring to it as father longlegs. In the early 19th century, daddy longlegs had become a nickname for a person that was much taller than everyone else. Whether the name was originally made for tall humans or for long-legged flies, as time went on, all other insects and spiders around the world that had the similar physical traits, long legs with a small body, would also be referred to as daddy longlegs. I guess it was just easier that way.
Ladies and gentlemen, gather round for the ultimate creepy crawly showdown. The moment we've all been waiting for, the main event in the arachnid division. In the blue corner, straight from the Sahara Desert, meet Mr. Scorpion. In the red corner, we've got a guest from South America. Meet notorious Mr. Tarantula. In the wild, tarantulas and scorpions rarely cross paths, so let's take a look and see what happens if they both step into the ring. Grab your popcorn and soda because it's time for round one. Both scorpions and tarantulas have tough exoskeletons, but this is just a fancy word for a hard shell. Both shells are made of the same substance called chitin. It's a bit like the thing that makes up our nails. The scorpion's hard shell does give it a slight advantage, though. The tarantula strikes first using a dramatic defensive move called urticating hairs. It flings its barbed hairs at its opponent, which can irritate their skin, eyes, and even stop them from breathing. The scorpion better watch out. But wait, tarantulas use this move on mammals they meet in their biomes, like mice. This impressive attack isn't affecting the scorpion because of its tough shell. That's 1 point to our stinging friend who takes an early lead. Round 2. Venom. Hey, I once had a girlfriend like that. The scorpion has powerful venom, and they inject their prey with it through their stinger, while tarantulas use their creepy fangs. Both of their venoms contain a whole cocktail of things designed to target the nervous system. Yow! As venoms are fast-acting, whoever is quick enough to get the first strike in the battle may get the upper hand. Because of an impressive thing called natural selection, scorpion venom is more effective against such animals like mice, lizards, and rats, but not tarantulas, since they're not a common threat to the scorpion. And yeah, both these guys have pretty similar venoms. You can try and sting Mr. Tarantula all you want, buddy, but looks like you're just going to be wasting your energy. Ow! Mr. Scorpion jumps up to Mr. Tarantula and stings it. Is that another point to this stinging guy? Hold on a second, take a look at the tarantula's leg. Looks like the scorpion's venom is already on there, but our spider friend is doing just fine. It may have evolved and grown an immunity to this venom. So it means that if stung, the spider is pretty much guaranteed to survive. However, there's a downside. It might make our 8-legged friend a little sleepy, but it wouldn't do any severe damage. Mr. Tarantula wins this round thanks to its immunity. Best get a blanket for our South American guest just in case it gets snoozy. The score is tied 1-1. Round 3. Size. Now size is another massively important factor. The bigger the animal is, the more venom is needed to take it down. The Goliath bird-eater tarantula in South America has an impressive body length of 8 inches and can weigh more than 17 ounces. Its leg can also span nearly 12 inches. For context, that's around the same size as an A4 page. Tarantulas are generally much bigger than scorpions. The biggest living scorpion, the giant forest scorpion, spans around 9 inches, including its legs and tail. In terms of a size advantage, the tarantula scores yet another point, 2-1 in favor of our 8-legged friend. Round 4. Special effects. One thing the scorpion has that the tarantula lacks is its sharp pincers. They're designed to catch prey so that they can be used against the tarantula. However, scorpions are rarely way larger than tarantulas, so those pincers can't bring much harm. Mr. Scorpion is making its next move. It's managed to grab one of the tarantula's hairy legs. While it seems like the scorpion might have the tarantula trapped and ready to attack, don't underestimate our spider friend. Tarantulas can amazingly afford to lose a leg or two and can detach their legs at the drop of a hat. They can drop their legs if they become trapped or grabbed by a predator. They can grow new ones later. The scorpion needs to act fast. Somebody quick, drop a hat. Mr. Scorpion lets go of the spider's leg and grabs another one before the tarantula can make its next move. Too late. Our spider has managed to escape. The fangs on a tarantula are also far more potent than the scorpion's gnashers. The scorpion would need to spend a lot of time tearing at a tarantula to damage it enough to take it down. In that time, Mr. Tarantula has started to overpower Mr. Scorpion, and its fangs can do way more damage than the scorpion's stinger. It's all starting to go downhill for Mr. Scorpion. Sorry, buddy. Its legs can be used for little other than walking, meaning that it's only got its tiny pincers and stinger for protection. And Mr. Tarantula has another ace up its sleeve. Well, it would if it had sleeves. What spiders may lack in pincers, they more than make up for with their metal-tipped fangs. Their fangs can easily punch through the scorpion's hard shell. Mr. Tarantula takes an early lead with yet another point, making it 3-1. Round 5. Speed. The Deathstalker scorpion can whip its tail at around 50 inches per second in a defensive strike. That covers a distance the size of 4 human feet every second. This is super impressive, but the Texas brown tarantula can also move at similar speeds. So, while the scorpion can strike fast, the tarantula can avoid its attack just as easily. It looks like both get a point where speed is concerned. The score is now 4-2. 2 rounds are still ahead, and there's a chance for Mr. Scorpion to end up in a draw. Round 6. Hunting skills. Mr. Tarantula is a natural when it comes to hunting, tracking down small lizards, mice, and rats. They also eat other spiders. What won't these furry guys do? Juggling? Come on, 8 arms. Unlike tarantulas, scorpions are no hunters. Instead, they wait for their food to come to them. They also only eat small insects and bugs and cannot take down larger mammals, which is not the case with tarantulas. But scorpions do have a slight advantage here. Because they survive by waiting for other animals, they have the superpower to detect vibrations in the ground. So if a tarantula was approaching, the scorpion could detect it before the spider has time to make its attack. Both talents are outstanding, so it's another draw in this round as things are really starting to heat up. The score now stands at 5-3. Round 7. Hidden talent. The tarantula has one more big advantage. It squirts a damaging substance onto its food to feast on it without cutlery. These juices then turn their meals into a sort of a smoothie, which they then slurp up without even having to chew. Oy. Oh wait, I meant wow! With such a talent, it could win a cooking contest. But scorpions have hidden talents too. While Mr. Scorpion may be losing the fight on land, if it can get the tarantula into water, the 8-legged creepy crawly doesn't stand a chance. Scorpions have impressive lungs called book lungs. And no, this doesn't mean they're great readers. It means that when they're submerged underwater, they can survive for up to 48 hours. The spider could last nowhere near that amount of time underwater without scuba gear. The score's at the end of the Hidden Talent round at 5-4. The referee stops the contest. On that note, it's all over for Mr. Scorpion. Our spider friend takes the champion belt. The tarantula's friends and family are celebrating the victory. The spiders all over the world are celebrating today's win too. They've seen the fight on TV. Don't ask. In areas with big tarantula populations, there's not a single scorpion to be found. It looks like the tarantulas are hunting down the scorpions and making them run away. And this isn't even the first time tarantula and the scorpion have faced off. The Mexican red rump tarantula versus the bark scorpion is another showdown for the history books. The tarantula wins every single time. It doesn't even matter who has the first hit. Probably next time, it's best to have another tournament underwater.
There are insects in nature that love to make a lot of noise. Imagine you're at a rock concert where a singer loudly yells into a microphone and the guitarists give out deafening chords. And all this is transmitted through giant speakers. It feels like the music passes through your body. You will experience a similar sensation if you find yourself near a swarm of cicadas. These creatures create a clicking, ringing sound with the help of vibrating membranes on their stomachs. The awakening of cicadas is always a surprise for people. Any day you can wake up to a loud noise outside. Cicadas gather in huge swarms, fly out into the streets, and cover cars, trees, and buildings. They chatter for weeks, and then silence comes. Cicadas disappear as suddenly as they appear. The cicada's sounds can be pleasant or harmful to your ears depending on the species. It can be something melodic and captivating. When millions of cicadas click in the forest, it resembles the sound of a jet plane or a circular saw working. Some people can't stand it and run away from the singing swarm. But many also say that cicadas make a pleasant sound that envelops you from all sides, which is a pretty unusual feeling. They make this noise to attract breeding partners or to warn their families of danger. Perhaps they are just having fun. And the reason for such joy is their life cycle. Cicadas spend several years underground and then come out to make noise for the last several weeks of their lives. And what they do under the surface is one of the most exciting mysteries for scientists. So, cicadas are physically strong insects with big eyes and unique wings. We'll talk about their uniqueness later, but now let's figure out why these insects are so awesome. There are about 3,000 species of cicadas, but they are all divided into two groups, annual and periodic ones. Annual is a common type. You can meet them all over the world. They live from 2 to 5 years or longer and have a normal insect lifestyle. They fly, drink the sap of trees, and click. But periodic cicadas live only in North America, in the central and eastern regions of the USA. They can disappear as a species off the face of the earth and then, a few years later, appear in a forest and make such noise that you can hear it from afar. Imagine walking in the woods, picking mushrooms and berries, and then the soil begins to move and hundreds of thousands of cicadas are flying out. They are everywhere, and they are very loud. But don't worry, they're not aggressive and won't bite you. The life cycle of these insects is divided into 3 parts: eggs, nymphs, and adults. At first, females lay several hundred eggs in different places. They leave their offspring near the ground on the branches of trees and brush. Then, after 6 to 10 weeks, little nymphs hatch out of them, fall to the floor, and burrow into the soil. There, they munch on fluids from the roots of plants and grow. They spend 13 or 17 years in these underground tunnels, then molt their shells and come out. And they all do it at the same time. It's as if someone gives them one order, and they drop everything to come to the surface simultaneously. And after they rise, they start to click. Imagine spending more than 10 years in a cramped, dark space, and then going out into a bright, open world where you will live for several weeks. No wonder cicadas are chirping so loudly. Or they may have a great time underground and then decide to spend their retirement outdoors. Most likely, their appearance coincides with convenient natural conditions. They wait for the soil temperature to become comfortable for reproduction and come out. However, while the soil heats up and gets colder annually, cicadas come out once every 13 or 17 years. Scientists can't give an exact explanation for this, but it may be related to other animals. Cicadas are pretty defenseless and nutritious creatures. A swarm of millions of cicadas is a feast for many forest inhabitants. Owls and foxes like to eat them. Suppose the forest ecosystem gets used to the annual singing of cicadas. In that case, their enemies will quickly destroy the entire population of these insects. Therefore, cicadas come out when no one expects them. Perhaps they choose the moment when the population growth of owls and foxes is at the lowest level. To avoid meeting them, cicadas wait for several years. This version looks logical, but something doesn't work in it. If cicadas fight for survival in such a way, then why don't all species do it? Annual cicadas regularly appear in the forest and are an integral part of the ecosystem. They continue to exist despite the presence of many enemies. Why do periodic ones decide to hide? This is still unknown. A massive swarm of cicadas resembles locusts. So many consider them pests. But unlike these crop eaters, cicadas only feed on the sap of trees. They won't eat your corn, destroy your garden, and bite the leaves. Cicadas drink juice from branches and roots, and they do it quite rarely. Yes, 1 million cicadas can damage trees because of their relative weight, but the damage they cause to people is not comparable to what locusts do. Besides, cicadas will rarely bother you. You can finish university and change several jobs, and the cicadas would come out only once during this time, and they also look pretty cute for insects. Their wings have beautiful patterns, and their eyes are so huge. However, they can still terrify you, especially if you meet a swarm of cicadas on your way. Life underground seems safe, but even there, the cicadas have their antagonists. And the main one is a special kind of parasitic fungi that can penetrate the body of a cicada and slowly devour it. The fungus takes control of the body and turns the host into a living zombie. These parasites have also learned to change their life cycle, following the life cycle of cicadas. That is, the fungus remains in the body of an insect for a long time and does nothing. And then, when the cicada comes to the surface, the parasite wakes up and begins to spoil its life. It feeds on the host's body and forces it to spread the fungus spores throughout the swarm to infect future generations. Another type of fungus doesn't wait for the cicadas to crawl to the surface. These parasites can cause infected insects to get out of the ground ahead of time, crawl up tree branches and scatter spores. Sometimes fungi grow out of cicadas while they are still underground. It seems that cicadas won't survive with such dangerous enemies, but nature has found a balance. Some types of fungi don't destroy their carriers. They live in symbiosis with cicadas. The parasite gets a home, and the cicada probably gets nutrients from the fungus. For scientists, this is a unique case when fungi abandon their parasitic lifestyle. With each emergence to the surface, the cicadas become bigger in size. This happens because large cities emit a lot of heat and nutrients into the air, warming the area by several degrees. This contributes to an increase in cicadas' size. But the growth only applies to those insects that live near cities. Cicadas hiding in rural areas with colder temperatures retain the same size. The uniqueness of cicadas is not only in their life development, but also in their anatomy. When insects become adults, their wings get covered with tiny nanopillars that can repel water, destroy bacteria, and self-clean. Doctors, chemists, and engineers want to use the properties of cicada wings to develop new technologies in different fields. A coating with the cicada's nanopillars can help people create new medicines. Engineers want to use self-cleaning surfaces of the wings without glare as coatings for solar panels and other high-tech developments. So, yeah, cicadas actually help us a lot.
So, you're at home, enjoying your evening tea under a warm blanket, when all of a sudden you see a huge, no, enormous mosquito. Its long and gangly legs have a span of your palm, and it clumsily bumps into all the obstacles it meets. Despite its awkward appearance, it's still terrifying. What if it carries malaria? What if it eats you alive in your sleep? Slowly, not to draw the monster's attention to yourself, you get out from your soft chair and run for it into the bathroom, lock yourself in there, and open the browser on your phone. After a few seconds, you draw a ragged breath of relief. Turns out it's just a crane fly, not a mosquito at all. It might look like a ferocious beast, but it's actually peaceful and even defenseless. Many crane flies don't even have mouths, so they don't eat at all, and those that have a mouthpiece will only munch on sweet flower nectar. Crane flies are really clumsy in the air. Their rather short wings are no match for their huge bodies and long legs, so they're slow and it's easy to catch them. Birds and frogs, as well as bats and cats, love them as a treat. The only way they can avoid being eaten is by losing a limb. Their legs easily break off even when nothing touches them. And if you're still unconvinced not to scram and set your house on fire when you see one, consider this. Crane flies can tell you if the water pool you're about to swim in is of good quality. If you see these bugs on or above the water, you're good to go. Even more, fishers often make their bait look like the crane fly larva. This makes it more appetizing for the fish. But while Googling, you get engrossed with reading up on some other weird and crazy bugs. For example, here's the human-faced stink bug. Nah, they don't really stink, at least for humans. They give off pheromones that attract other stink bugs, letting them know there's food nearby. The most peculiar feature of it is in the name. A man-faced stink bug has a face on its back, with 3 black dots drawn in red. The vibrant color of its back warns predators that the bug isn't tasty or even poisonous, while the black eyes draw attention from them to the vulnerable head. Saddleback caterpillar's name is also quite telling. It looks like some creature from another planet with a bright green saddle over its back. And the saddle is, sadly, the only safe part of the thing to touch. The spines you see all over the rest of its body are sharp and highly poisonous. If you want to give it a friendly tap on the back, make sure you don't touch anything else. Well, we have a Titan beetle next. Meet the largest beetle in the whole world. It can grow as long as your entire palm, complete with fingers. Seeing one in the wild can be a shocking experience, especially if it flies right in your face. But don't fret. Thankfully, this giant is placid and won't bite you if you don't mean it harm. Still, if you make it angry, never let its mandibles touch you. The bug will hiss and bite, and what such snap can crack a pencil in half. What's interesting, an adult Titan beetle doesn't feed at all. It doesn't need food to survive. As a larva, it gets enough energy to keep it well-nourished even when grown up. Ooh, I love that ability. An even more menacing-looking bug is a giant weta. Living in New Zealand, these cricket-like creatures look like someone forgot to lock the portal to the infernal. A massive, beefy body with 6 thorny legs, long alien-looking antennae, and big mandibles that just might cut steel. Well, in fact, these giant insects are quite peaceful and won't bite unless provoked. And even if they do, it's not as bad as you might think. There are videos with wetas biting hands of people holding them and doing no harm at all. So don't let it scare you, even though such an insect might weigh more than a full-fledged sparrow. Atlas moths look like they have 3 heads, 2 of which are serpents. These pretty nocturnal flyers have strange shapes on the tips of their wings that look like snake heads. This seems to be their mode of defense from predators. And that's also why they're sometimes called cobra moths. In Southeast Asia and India, where they normally dwell, atlas moths are often found on butterfly farms producing silk. And that's some sight. The wingspan of one such moth can reach 10 inches. That's larger than your hand. Peacock spiders are perhaps the cutest arachnids in the world, second maybe only to their jumping cousins. They're so tiny, you probably wouldn't even notice one scrambling through your kitchen. But if you get a chance to take a closer look, do it. Peacock spiders are beautiful. They have large, beady eyes, a shiny blue and red coat, and cute fuzz on their body and legs. And their mating dance is something else entirely. Too bad they only live in Australia. Another moth on the list, the hummingbird moth. Remember the Atlas one, how huge it was? Well, this one's as big as a hummingbird and holds much more resemblance to its namesake than that. The speed at which it flutters its wings, the long tongue to drink flower nectar, and even the sound it makes when flying, all of it makes you wonder if it's really a moth after all. Of course, the fuzzy critter is absolutely safe, and you should consider yourself lucky if you ever see one. Long-horned orb weaver spider is one of the most unusual arachnids in the world. It's just your regular spider in all respects, but for some reason, it boasts two long curved horns on its back. The back itself is bright orange to ward off predators. Red means danger. But scientists are still unsure why this spider needs those prongs, so there's a web of mystery for you. The soft rustling of leaves underneath, a pile of them slightly moving, and a big mighty horn shows up. It's the Hercules beetle, one of the largest beetles on the planet. Almost half of its size comes from that horn on its head. Thanks to this wonderful appendage, you know exactly it's a male. Females don't have it at all. Yet the name comes not only from the horn, but from the amazing ability of this giant to haul extremely heavy loads. Its strength is second only to dung beetles. A Hercules can carry as much as 850 times its own weight. If you ever see a bug with 5 heads wearing a pointy cap, no, you're not on another planet. It's a Brazilian treehopper. Straight from a sci-fi movie and onto your screens here, this insect is a real mystery. It's small and secretive, and much is still unknown about it. No one knows why exactly the treehoppers have these fuzzy balls on their heads. But they've only got one head after all, that much is certain. Going for a swim in a freshwater pond somewhere in the African tropics. Watch your toes, you can get a giant water bug hunting them. It's a predatory bug and the largest of its kind. With those huge pincers, it's no wonder it's commonly known as an alligator flea and a toe biter. The bite of this water-dwelling monster is really quite powerful. It grabs its prey with the front legs and then slowly munches on it. And when I say it's a predator, I mean it. Giant water bugs' favorite food is fish and amphibians. Despite their name, scorpion flies aren't related to scorpions. They get this moniker thanks to their tails, which look a lot like the notorious arachnids. Seeing a flying scorpion is a daunting sight at best, but fear not, these critters are small and gentle, and they can't even bite you. Only the males have such a tail, and they use it to attract females. Hey! What do you imagine when you hear the words walking stick? Certainly not a bug, but that's exactly what it is. Look at this twig and try to guess. Is there something alive on it or not? Yes and no. This twig is not a twig at all. It is a walking stick. These insects have developed a fascinating camouflage. They're long and unassuming, able to stay still for hours on end, which makes them look like dry twigs. But as soon as you touch one, it scrambles away on its gangly legs. Thanks to their appearance, predatory birds often miss walking sticks in the dense foliage, and their Australian kin give off a pleasant scent, something like peanut butter. Ooh, yum. Bees first appeared on Earth 130 million years ago, and they outlived dinos. What helped them survive for so long is an incredibly complex structure of their society and teamwork. Each bee has its own role and responsibility. Some of them build and repair their home, some bees protect it, others clean the hive and get food. But what if you could sneak into a hive and figure out how this whole system works? What would you see inside? For some mysterious reason, it's easy for you to get past the guards. But if you were a bee from another colony, they wouldn't let you in without a fight. The guard bees look rather intimidating. They stand on their back four legs at the hive's entrance, their front legs raised in the air. These bees inspect every insect entering the hive with their antennae and front legs. Each hive has its own odor, and the guards can understand if a bee belongs to their colony by smelling it. Only the bees that live in the hive can get inside. Suddenly, you see something strange. One of the guard bees has detected an intruder. An alien bee must have mistakenly tried to enter the wrong hive. But it's carrying a load of nectar, and the guard lets it in. Apparently, they don't mind accepting free gifts of food, even from strangers. You feel too curious to linger there any longer. The hive has only one entrance. You notice that the walls around it look strange. You take a closer look and understand that it's coated with a thin layer of some substance. It's propolis, hardened plant resin produced by bees. It helps fight infections and cures different health problems. A bit further, you can see countless honeycombs. They're densely packed hexagonal cells made of beeswax. Bees use them to store food, pollen, and honey. That's where they keep eggs, larvae, and pupae. Honeycombs are fixed to the walls of the hive. They stretch from top to bottom and are even attached to the sides. But you spot narrow passageways along the comb edges. Bees use them to move around the hive. You might also be able to squeeze through one of these tunnels. After exploring the place, you figure out that bees store honey in the upper part of the comb. Beneath, there are cells that contain pollen. Then, there are cells used for keeping eggs with future worker bees. And at the very bottom, there are drone eggs. Of course, your ultimate goal is to see the queen bee, but it's not that easy to find her. First, you come across lots of other bees. Most of them are workers. They make up the largest part of the hive's population, and they're all ladies. Each of them has its own task. The most common of them is foraging. You spot a bee leaving a hive and decide to follow it. The queen can wait a bit. You want to see how bees provide food for the hive. The bee is buzzing ahead of you. After visiting a couple of flowers, it suddenly starts wiggling while hovering in one place. That's the famous bee dance. That's how bees communicate. Once a forager finds a perfect supply of nectar, it starts to perform a very precise dance. It consists of a series of straight lines and figure eights. Throughout the dance, the bee is also shaking its wings. How long the dance lasts means how far away from the hive the nectar is. Every 75 milliseconds is another 330 feet to the distance, and how intense the dance is depends on the richness of the source of the nectar. The stronger the waggle is, the more nectar the bee has found. And there's also the angle of the dance. It shows the direction of the nectar in relation to the sun. Your bee must have found tons of nectar. It's practically vibrating. Suddenly, it starts flying back to the hive. You follow it. There, the bee does a shake dance in front of the other worker bees. This is how it tells other bees they need to go foraging right away. You decide to stay behind and just watch what will happen. Soon, the bees return. They've brought back a lot of nectar that needs to be ripened into honey. Your bee does a tremble dance this time. It's shaking its legs in a way that makes its body tremble all over. This little dance makes other workers get down to process the nectar. It's time for you to resume your search. You dive back into the hive and begin to squeeze through small passageways. You come across the cells where worker bees begin their lives as eggs. It takes a bee 21 days to develop from an egg into a full-grown worker. The first task of this new worker is to clean the cell where it grew. The cell then becomes a nursery for a new egg, and the bee looks after this egg. Later, it feeds the larva and keeps it warm. During the next stage of its life, when it's 12 to 20 days old, the bee starts doing chores around the hive. It produces wax, stores pollen and nectar, builds the comb, guards the entrance, and so on. When the bee turns 20 days old, it becomes a forager. It looks for and delivers pollen, nectar, and tree resin to make propolis. The bee also brings water. Bees need it for drinking and cooling the hive. At one point, you see something that looks like a hospital room. There, worker bees look after those that feel unwell. The doctors bring them different types of honey depending on their infection. If there's no other way, they remove a sick bee from the hive. It helps to prevent the entire colony from getting ill. And then there are also temperature control bees. The temperature in the hive is usually around 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's crucial to keep it this way, not hotter, not colder. Otherwise, the eggs won't hatch. You see a group of bees and instantly understand they're temperature bees. Apparently, the temperature in the hive has dropped, and now the bees are trying to warm it up. They're vibrating in a special way, which raises their body temperature, and you can feel the air around you become a bit warmer. And if they needed to cool the hive, they would go and gather some water droplets. Then they would bring this water on their backs. Once in the hive, the temperature bees would buzz their wings very fast, making the water evaporate and lower the temperature. You move further and soon come across a bee you haven't seen before. It has huge eyes, a large body, and no stinger. It's a drone, the only kind of male bee in the hive. Drones don't have any foraging tools either. Their only purpose is to mate with the queen and care for her. The drone's life isn't too long. For one thing, if this bee manages to mate with the queen, it never survives the process. And if there's a food shortage or winter is coming, worker bees usually kick drones out of the hive and don't let them back in. Wow, that's harsh. You keep going until you finally notice a nursery. There, you spot a bee that is twice the size of a worker bee. Your quest has come to an end. That's the queen. This bee is the most important one for the hive, because it's the only bee that can lay eggs. Despite her title, the queen doesn't actually rule, and her brain is smaller than that of a worker bee. But she produces special pheromones that influence the mood of the entire hive. The queen also gives birth to every single bee in the colony. When the queen is still a larva, worker bees feed her royal jelly. That's a goop with super high sugar content. A larger cell, along with such a diet, leads to a bigger body and the future queen's ability to emit the pheromones. When the queen has mated with drones, she returns to the hive. 3 days later, she starts laying eggs and never stops. She works especially hard in the spring, laying one egg every 20 seconds. No wonder that later in the year, the colony already has a population of 30,000 to 60,000 bees. But wait, something strange is happening here. A group of worker bees, in fact lots of them, might be half the colony, leave the hive with the queen leading them. It means the colony has become too big. The queen goes outside for the first time since mating, and the whole swarm sets off in search of a new home. Back in the hive, a new queen hatches from an egg 8 days later. It's a rainy Thursday evening, and you curl up in your armchair with a cup of hot chocolate and a new Brightside video. Suddenly, you notice a scary shadow above you. There's a monster on the wall with 100 legs and antenna on its head. You start dialing 911 and your mom at the same time. While you're on the phone, your guest moves at lightning speed. 2 seconds and you can no longer see it. You grab a mop and hide in your closet. With your hand shaking, you open the browser and type "Scary Beast Inside My House." You scroll before you finally find the right one. House centipede. Turns out it only has 15 pairs of legs, 2 well-developed eyes, and 2 long, sensitive antennae to pick up smells and vibrations. It carries venom in the legs, located by the head and near the mouth. And it can hold more than one prey in its legs, using them like a lasso. All this makes your guest an excellent hunter. Somehow all the web pages you're looking at are telling you to leave the beast alone and be happy it's in your house. A lot of people are trying to get rid of them. But house centipedes are a natural and free pest control in your home. They'll help you get rid of bugs, flies, ants, moths, spiders, termites, and cockroaches. You, as a human, are simply not on their menu. They're active night hunters, and they don't leave webs or traps anywhere. They don't build nests in-house either, and don't snack on your furniture, clothing, food, or pets. They move without making a sound and without leaving any dirty traces behind. House centipedes don't carry any diseases and in 99% of cases get out at night when you can't see them. They're always moving around looking for prey. Because they move quickly, you might not notice them at all. They would only try biting you if you attack them first. Even then, they can't bite through skin. It feels like a light bee sting. Nothing too crazy. This sounds promising, and you're almost ready to get out of your hiding spot. Ah! You scream like a girl. It's there again. Quickly, you don't need to feel comfortable sharing your home with this multi-legged creature. You grab a jar and a paper. It's running across the room. It's under the bookshelf. Wait for it to get out on the wall. You turn off the lights to make it feel more relaxed. It's still now, and so it's done. You take it outside and hope it will still do the pest control job out there. You decide to secure the house from any other unwanted guests. So, house centipedes love moisture and like to hang out in bathrooms and basements most of all. You get downstairs and fill all the gaps in the floor and the walls. You check all the pipes in the bathroom and kitchen for leaks. Ah, perfect. Now it's time to go outside and remove dry leaves and twigs. Centipedes love to hide in there. It's been a busy night. You decide to watch some TV. Ouch! What a monster! It's a Goliath bird eater, the largest spider in the world. And just like the house centipede, it looks way scarier than it actually is. The Goliath diet includes insects, frogs, and rodents. It lives in northern South America. Despite its huge size, it can't hurt a human with its venom, no more than a bee sting. The next guest on the show is the whale shark. Obviously not a bug. It's the largest shark and fish in the world, slightly bigger than a double-decker bus and as heavy as 5 elephants. They have 300 tiny teeth in their mouth, and they use those on plankton and the occasional fish. Whale sharks are slow swimmers and the kindest of all sharks. They even play with divers. In fact, humans are more dangerous to them than they are to humans. Despite its huge size, giant African millipede is a shy guy and would rather hide under the rocks all day. The only thing it can attack is dry leaves on the ground. This way, it plays its role for the environment. Australian thorny dragons are lizards with scary-looking spikes on their bodies. They move around the scrubs and deserts in search of ants. That's their favorite and only meal, and they can eat thousands of small ants a day. They catch them with their sticky tongues. Thorny dragons use their spikes to protect themselves against predators and won't ever attack a human. Their superpower is changing color depending on temperature. Wrinkle-faced bats live in Central and South America. They only eat fruit, and their face shape and skin helps them with it. They have terrible table manners and shove their face completely in their lunch. All the wrinkles help the fruit juices funnel directly into the mouth. Oh, what a great idea! I should try that. Aye-ayes are lemurs that live only in Madagascar. An old local superstition says meeting one of those is really bad luck. In fact, they're harmless creatures that feed on insects and larvae. They quickly tap on tree trunks to find food and take it out with their long middle fingers. Aye-ayes prefer to stay on trees and barely get down on the ground, so you're unlikely to ever bump into one anyway. If you ever visit Nepal or India and run into a crocodile with a long and narrow nose, don't panic, it's a gharial. Crocodiles are their closest relatives, but gharials are not one of them. They are their own unique species. Their weird noses are perfectly adapted to catch fish. It's their favorite food. Gharials are loving and caring parents and super shy creatures. They hide from humans and never attack them. Milk snakes look almost exactly like coral snakes, but unlike that highly venomous creature, they are completely harmless. Nature gave them those brightly colored stripes to trick prospective predators into thinking they are coral snakes. Thanks to that mimicry, they survive in different places from fields and rocks to agricultural areas and barns. Some people even keep milk snakes as pets. Yeah, but you better keep the different color patterns straight. Mata spiky turtles are super lazy. They don't even swim, but walk in slow-moving streams and swamps. They only get out of the water to lay eggs. Mata-matas don't hunt, but wait for their food to come by. When they see a fish, they stretch their neck and swallow it like a vacuum cleaner. They have to do it because their jaws can't even chew. Hey, what's the matter with you? Virginia tiger moth is as scared of you as you are of it, and tries to avoid contact at all costs. Their favorite food is leaves, birch, willow, maple, walnut, cabbage, and so on. They chew on the fleshy parts and leave the leafy skeleton behind. If you really annoy them, they'll try to protect themselves. But the most serious mark they can leave behind is slight skin irritation, or some nunchuck marks if they're forced to use their martial arts. Just kidding. Vultures have sharp beaks and talons and a reputation as a bad guy. In fact, they won't hurt a single living being. Their culinary preference is animal carcasses. Yum! This way, they make the world a cleaner and healthier place, kinda like animal control. Unlike most birds that have 360-degree vision, vultures only focus on what's going on beneath them with their 60-degree vision. Giant isopods are close relatives of shrimps and crabs living deep under the sea. They have alien-like bodies with dozens of sharp claws on the belly and 4 sets of jaws to hunt. But they don't always have food around them. That's why they slow down their metabolism to save energy and constantly live in semi-hibernation. When they're in danger, giant isopods curl up into a little ball and hide so that no one can find them. The star-nosed mole is the size of a hamster and the fastest eater in the world. It presses the creepy-looking star on its nose to the soil to find out what's in 10 to 12 different places in a second. The star has 100,000 nerve fibers in it that send information to the mole's brain. Not a bad compensation for almost no eyesight and good enough to hunt insects while being perfectly harmless to humans. Tailless whip scorpions, unlike their relatives, don't carry venom or toxins and can't bite, sting, or hurt humans in any other possible way. They can't even chew, so they sit and wait for an insect to pass by and detect it with their legs. They make great pets, and owners even put them on their faces without fear. That's okay, you go first. I'll watch from over here.
Around 80% of all animals on Earth are insects. But how well do you know their world? Let's see if you can guess whether these amazing facts are myths or true. Here's the first one. Cockroaches can run on 2 legs, just like humans. Myth or true? That's correct. Cockroaches don't do it just for fun. Running on 2 legs is more energy efficient because it's easier for their little brains to process. If you take a closer look at the cockroach, you're gonna spot that all pairs of legs have different lengths. This creates unnecessary drag when the cockroach needs to reach high speeds. Their nervous system can get overloaded and confused by trying to control all 3 pairs of legs. So, it chooses to move just 1 pair, the rear legs that use energy most efficiently. Check this out. A full moon makes mosquitoes bite 500% more actively. Myth or true? True. Just like werewolves, mosquitoes get fierce when the moon is full. That's because they use visual cues and receptors to spot their next dinner, and it's way easier to do so when the moon is full. Mosquitoes spot movement by detecting infrared radiation emitted by warm bodies at distances of up to 115 feet. Salt marsh mosquitoes took this to the next level. They're such gourmets that they can travel up to 40 miles just for the sake of eating. Only male mosquitoes bite. Does it sound real? Nope. In fact, only female mosquitoes do bite people or animals because they need a blood meal to produce eggs. On average, they take in about 5 millionths of a liter during one feeding. Meanwhile, male mosquitoes prefer eating plant juices, such as nectar. It's enough for them to get the necessary sugar and boost their energy levels. And since males don't bite, they cannot transmit diseases. But females, on the other hand, can get infected with germs when they bite sick people or animals. Here's the next fact. Alligator ticks are called so because they can reach the size of a crocodile. True or false? That's false, but still, it's the largest aquatic insect on Earth. According to Guinness World Records, toe biter, or sometimes called an alligator tick, can grow to be more than 4 inches long, which is basically the size of an average leaf. They can be found around the world, but they're especially common in North America. Toe biters perfectly blend into the landscape because their dark brown body mimics the leaves of the wetlands. They're predatory by nature. Usually they eat small tadpoles and other insects, but sometimes they take down bigger prey, like snakes and even turtles. Those who experienced meeting these creatures claim that their bites are the most painful injuries a human can suffer. flies can poison your food just by landing on it. Myth or true? Unfortunately, that's true. Not only are flies annoying, but they also regurgitate some of their stomach contents when they land on your food. And houseflies are just one of many fly species that do so. Ugh. It happens because flies don't have teeth. Instead of chewing, they use their straw-shaped mouth to slurp their food. They secrete digestive juices on their future meal as they land on it, and once the food has been liquefied, the flies are able to slurp it up. But the real danger lies with their feet, not their mouths. Flies spend a lot of time walking on all sorts of dirty things, which can be sources of disease. Studies have revealed that flies can transfer bacteria even if they're only in contact with an area for a short period of time. So, if you ever spot some flies hanging around your food, it makes sense to cover it. Or, if you're concerned about your health, even forget about finishing your meal. Here comes the next fact. Females of toe biters carry their eggs on their backs. That's false. In fact, they lay eggs on their males' backs. After that, the future father carries the eggs as a backpack wherever he goes. As sweet as it sounds, this sight is still pretty disgusting, and it might send shivers down your spine. And more bad news. Even though they're called water bugs, they can fly. So don't just watch out below because they can approach from the sky. Ugh. Next fact. Ants are one of the most dominant animals on the planet. True or myth? True. Collectively, ants alone contribute up to 20% of the entire animal biomass on the planet. These creatures are pretty ancient. They appeared around 160 million years ago and took over a wide variety of ecological niches. As a result, today they count about 16,000 different species with over 10,000 trillion individuals. Check this out. Butterflies taste with their feet. Myth or true? Sounds like fiction, but it's true. Butterflies have taste receptors on their feet to help them find their host plant and select food. Female butterflies land on various plants and drum the leaves with their feet. This technique helps them squeeze juices from the plant. Their legs have spines with receptors, helping them to detect the right match of chemicals in the plant juice. And once a female butterfly finds the proper plant, she lays eggs. Also, both male and female butterflies step on their potential food to sense the content of dissolved sugars. Just imagine what human restaurants would look like if people were tasting with their feet. Next fact. Butterfly wings are transparent. Does it sound real? That's true. Butterflies have the image of colorful and vibrant creatures. But, strangely enough, their wings are transparent. They are covered with thousands of tiny scales, and these scales reflect light in different colors. But underneath all of those scales, a butterfly wing consists of several layers of chitin. It's the same protein that makes up an insect's exoskeleton. These layers are so thin that you can see right through them. Butterflies only live from 2 to 4 short weeks, and you can determine their age by the quality of their wings. With age, the scales begin to fall off the wings, leaving transparent spots. Fruit flies were the first living creatures to be sent into space. Myth or true? True! A long time before sending dogs or humans into space, scientists studied fruit flies' reactions to radiation and space flights. This helped to predict how space conditions and zero gravity might influence human beings, because we share many genes with fruit flies. And after several decades of research, on February 20th, 1947, fruit flies became the first living organism to go to space and return. Next fact. Caterpillars have 2 eyes. Myth or true? That's a myth. In fact, the majority of caterpillars have 12 eyes called stemmata. If you look closely, you can see 6 tiny eyelets on each side of the caterpillar's head. One pair of eyes is usually placed closer to the antennae. It's easy to believe that 12 eyes would guarantee excellent eyesight, but that's not the case. A caterpillar uses them to distinguish light and dark and navigate its way. That's why sometimes caterpillars move their heads from side to side. Maybe they just love rap music. But scientists believe that it helps caterpillars understand the distance between objects. A few species of caterpillars have between 10 and 14 eyes, but these are usually more primitive forms, which also have several features making them different from other moths and butterflies. Scorpions can breathe underwater. Myth or true? That's false. Although scorpions are not very good swimmers, they can still store oxygen to survive underwater. And some species can hold their breath for up to 6 days. Scorpions can survive underwater thanks to the so-called book lungs, which actually look like a book. The pages of that book act like membranes that store oxygen. Since scorpions don't waste a lot of oxygen on dry land, they can just store the rest in their lungs. And once a scorpion enters the water, it has around 48 hours to hang out carefree. After that, it will need to come out of the water for the next inhale. And this cute little creature is called the northern pseudoscorpion. It's the breath-holding champion among scorpions. It can hold its breath for up to 17 days. Let's just hope it doesn't learn to fly.
You think your bedroom is empty, but there's something hidden inside. Secretly, a bed bug is resting. While inactive during the day, their keen instincts identify the moment you've gone to bed. As you breathe deeply, you emit large amounts of carbon dioxide. This lures the bed bugs out like a dinner bell. This insect holds no other purpose than contaminating your home. Without predators and with an uncontested food supply in your bed, it leads a very peaceful life. They're incredibly hardy, able to live within any area that humans journey to. They're capable of hitchhiking on human luggage and riding along to public places like theaters, hospitals, schools, and hotels. The length of the journey doesn't bother them, as they can survive a whole year without food. Don't bother attempting to catch them. As small as they are at a 1/4 inch, they're also very fast and easily find new places to hide. The only method is through pesticides. But as a testament to their resistance, pest controllers must constantly modify the strength of their substance. Bedbugs produce their own detoxifying enzymes which protect them. And with each generation, they become even more resilient. A study in 2008 compared bedbugs of that time to a generation from 30 years earlier. The older generation required only 0.3 nanograms of substance to remove them. However, the newer group required up to 10,000. More important is to remove their eggs. A female bug lays them every single night, and throughout their lifetime of 6 months, they can lay up to 500. You walk around the kitchen and you notice a couple of ants walking around. It's spring, and at this time of year, they prefer protein-based foods. Later in summer, their diet will involve sweeter and oily meals. These couple of ants are only scouts, trying to locate new sources of food. The smell of a dirty kitchen and a full bin have attracted them here. Once they've found their objective, they will mark their journey with a pheromone leading to their nest, informing the entire colony of the buffet they located. The nest of the colony could be as small as a dinner plate with 1,000 ants, or as large as 2 meters with up to 100,000 inhabitants. There are also some cases of super colonies that combine more than one nest. The largest one found covers over 3 countries: Italy, France, and Spain. Over 3,700 miles, it's estimated that this super colony has millions of nests with billions of ants. So, understanding the risk of a lot of ants entering your home, you can easily remove the scouts' tracks by mixing 1 part vinegar and 3 parts water into a spray bottle. Then spray it over the floor. The vinegar removes the scented trail. The risk isn't just sharing your home with thousands of new housemates. With a steady food source available, they might make a nest within the walls and floors. They will weaken your foundations, making it even harder to remove the ants.
Another pest that has a taste for the sweeter delicacies within the trash bin is the cockroach. They can only survive a week without water, so you'll find them in humid areas, mainly in basements. But they are capable of living up to a month without food, resourcefully eating to avoid the risk of being caught in the act. They gained these evolutionary traits over 280 million years ago. Clearly, they've been a nuisance for a long time. You see one in your kitchen, it quickly evades capture, running up to 3 miles per hour. You chase it down into your basement and it quickly hides away, somewhere in the cracks of the wall. In here, the roach mother will lay up to 50 eggs, and when they hatch, the young ones are impossible to find, as they're the size of a speck of dust. But with only 36 days until they grow into an adult, you need to get rid of them as soon as possible. It's another resilient bug that resists pesticides. It's easier to deter them completely by keeping the kitchen clean and using citrus-based products. Although they smell great, the roaches can't stand them. But if you already have an infestation on your hands, chop up some onions and sprinkle them with baking soda. As the roaches feed on the onion, they also unknowingly ingest the soda. It reacts with the stomach's liquid and expands, causing it to burst. You're unpacking a box and surprised to see some silverfish inside of it. It's a popular place for them, providing shelter and a comfortable way to travel. Paper, card, a high starch and sugar content, providing them with an endless food source. They are incredibly elusive and can lay dormant for long periods, so it only appears that you don't have any in your home. They're harmless to humans but can damage clothing and contaminate food. You'll want to find a way to remove them as they lay up to 3 eggs per day and can live for 8 years. And as their numbers grow, predatory bugs will soon follow. Centipedes are attracted to houses with silverfish. As the centipede quickly follows the migration of silverfish, it also prefers the same humid environment of your basement. Centipedes are prone to dehydration, partly due to their impressive speed of 1.3 feet per second. But as they run out of silverfish to eat, they rudely refuse to leave. There is a positive side to this, as they then go on to remove other annoying pests, including roaches, moths, dangerous spiders, and even bed bugs. While also trying to be as respectful as possible in your home, carefully grooming their 15 pairs of legs after each meal. But if you find their creepy appearance too much, removing the buffet of other pests will influence them to move on. Time is a great natural deterrent for both the centipede and its prey. Planting it around your home will provide an invisible force field. Slightly pinching the leaves will release the chemical within. But although bugs in your home are mostly pests, some can actually be helpful. If you're in Australia, it's common to find a huntsman spider inside your home. These guys are quite large, and it may appear scary, but they're here to help. Trust me. They're capable of living for 2.5 years. Some people even consider them to be a pet. Peacefully sleeping during the day, high on your wall in clear view, letting you know they're there for you, while out of reach, causing you no harm. And as you go to bed at night, they provide their part of the rent. They get to work removing all the pesky bugs in your house. As the huntsman moves towards your basement, it slowly tracks its unsuspecting prey, hiding within the shadows of your basement. The huntsman has decided that on today's menu is the cockroach, one of its favorites. The roach awakes once it's clear, knowing you've gone to bed. Then it struts towards the stairs full of confidence, hoping to find some of that sweet trash juice. But along its path, the huntsman waits. It's an ambush. The roach walks right into it, and the huntsman lunges out from its hiding spot. The roach is spooked and tries to get away. But the huntsman is one of the fastest spiders in the world, and within moments it shows the meaning behind the name huntsman. The huntsman is incredibly passive towards people and just loves to be in your house. If you try to remove them, they will flee and hide. They're only aggressive if you force them into a corner. All they want to do is be part of the family and be your exterminator, free of charge. If you're unlucky and don't have one of these great housemates, you may want to introduce one from the wild. But before going out and catching one, keep in mind there are 100 different species within Australia. They vary in size and behavior, and some are a bit more social than others. The social huntsman prefers to live within communities of up to 150. an extended family that hunts together and shares their food. So be cautious about which ones you decide to bring into your home.
Well, it's that time of year again, spring cleaning. Making your way outside, you grab the duster and broom to get rid of all those cobwebs on your windows. They don't stand a chance this time. Removing one cobweb after the other, you suddenly notice some weird-shaped mud stuck under the eaves and porch. What's this? It suddenly dawns on you. These have to be mud dauber wasp nests. You're probably thinking there's a swarm of them around with so many nests being side by side. Luckily, mud dauber wasps are solitary insects. Whew! All those little mud huts are filled with paralyzed spiders. Sometimes, even up to 500 spiders can be trapped in these lockers, just waiting for the wasp young to hatch. If the nest has holes, it may indicate the nest is inactive or old, as mud dauber wasps create holes when they leave the nest. If you're not going to remove them, it's best to wait till nighttime when they're not as active. While they're pretty placid, if they feel threatened, they won't hesitate to sting. Looking like someone got halfway through building one insect and forgot what part came next, the mole cricket is one insect that really looks out of this world. With claws like a mole, a body of a cricket, and the head of a shrimp, this critter is like the platypus of the insect world. They're not venomous and will only bite if you trap them inside your hand. And if you really annoy it, it's got something else up its sleeve – the wings. They can spit a foul-smelling brown liquid from their body, just like a skunk. So just let them leave your home and there will be nothing to clean up. Rock pools are teeming with all sorts of plant and animal life. Sea creatures such as starfish, seagrass, hermit crabs, tiny fish, and all types of octopuses. If you come across this tiny blue-ringed octopus, it's best to leave it alone. It's flashing neon blue at you for a reason. This miniature octopus has a venomous bite that's 1,000 times stronger than cyanide, with no antidote available. Don't poke it with a stick or try to pick one up. It's not worth the trip to the hospital or the morgue. Snakes on land are scary, but sea snakes are on an entirely different level. Found in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, there are about 50 different species of sea snakes, and they're beautiful as much as they're dangerous. Luckily, they don't seem to worry about us too much. The Dubois sea snake is arguably the most venomous snake in the ocean, with the big sea snake not far behind. Their venom makes a cobra's bite seem like a walk in the park. The venom of both these snakes is extremely dangerous. Good thing for us that their venom can take hours to cause any symptoms in humans. If they can bite through your wetsuit, that is. Now, if this fly lands on your arm outside, you might just scream a little. Hey, I wouldn't blame you. The scorpion fly, as its name suggests, has a curved tail that looks just like a scorpion stinger. But you can breathe a sigh of relief. This is only used for mating. It also has a long beak-like head that's used to feed after stealing insects from spiders' webs. To find the perfect partner, they love to give the equivalent of a box of chocolates and flowers, except theirs is saliva. How romantic. If you happen to be in Africa, you might just miss this large bird if you're not paying attention. The shoebill will just casually stand still as you walk right on by. Growing up to 5 feet tall with an 8-foot wingspan, the shoebill sounds like an apex predator, though it's anything but. Known as one of the most slow-moving birds, almost statue-like, the shoebill just eats fish near the surface of the water without a care in the world. This bird isn't afraid of humans at all. While they won't naturally come over to talk about the weather, they'll allow us to get close enough for some photos. Now, if you hear a small squeaking sound while you're in the garden, it could be a mouse, a squirrel, or a rhinoceros beetle is letting you know that you are too close. They love to make a racket when bothered. With a giant scary horn on top of their head, they might seem like they're able to defend themselves with it, but that's not possible at all. That's only to move leaves and sticks out of their way, and to stop other males from coming into the female beetle's area. Not only have they got a horn on their head, but they've also got Herculean strength, able to lift 850 times their own weight. It's like you or me lifting 65 tons or 11 elephants. Hey, let's try it. Nah. Found mainly in China, the small tufted deer looks adorable with its tuft of hair. That is, until it turns around. Oh no, it's a vampire deer! Luckily, this animal doesn't want to taste your blood or wear a cape. Only males grow these during the mating season rather than antlers to fight over territories in female tufted deer. These fangs are more like elephant tusks than sharp teeth. Not only do they have fangs, but they're also known to bark like a dog and flee like a cat when they're scared. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning, sailor's warning. No one said anything about a red tide, though. The red tide is a toxic algal bloom that rises up from the seafloor after particularly bad storms. This algae looks a lot like spilled ketchup or rust in the water, but it's much worse for the life around it. Fish and marine life will try to escape once exposed to the toxic algae in their water. It's not particularly harmful to humans who are exposed to it, but if you eat seafood contaminated with its toxins, things can become a bit more serious. So, if the sea is red, just stay out of the water. Some spiders love to show off with bright colors to show they're dangerous. Not the Sydney funnel web spider of Australia. This glossy black spider doesn't need theatrics to prove it's tough. These bad-tempered crawlers cause serious alarm when they decide to bite us. It can shut down our entire nervous system in as little as 30 minutes. Making their web in any shelter, like old logs, shoes, or even garden gnomes, the funnel web spiders like to live close to our surroundings for easy food. When they get tired of an area, they just leave their web behind and wander off to find somewhere new. Perfect. Some say honey badgers don't care, and I think they might be right. When you're brave enough to take food away from a jaguar, lion, or hyena, hey, what do you got to fear? These tough relatives of the weasel aren't just ferocious, they're super smart. Known to even use tools to escape from enclosures. Objects like rakes, stones, and mud just become things to climb for freedom. Aside from their physical similarities to the skunk, the honey badger also boasts a dangerous gland in its tail containing a powerful stink machine. So they're tough, stinky, have extremely stretchy and strong skin, and to top it all off, they've got a strong immunity to scorpions and snakes. The best thing to do if you walk into a honey badger is to leave it alone. What chance do we have? Ever heard of the fungus strawberries and cream? No? What about its other name, the bleeding tooth fungus? This fungus isn't toxic, but tastes so bitter that you might think twice about trying some. When young and growing, this white mushroom appears to have red jelly coming out of its pores. This sticky liquid is sap that's pushed up from taking on too much water. The adult mushroom is just a boring beige compared to this. Underneath the mushroom cap, where its spores are produced, it has a tooth-like structure, just to make it even weirder. Tasmanian devils have a reputation for being bad-tempered when threatened by a predator, fighting other males, or getting a place at the table for dinner. They're dubbed devils because of the teeth-baring, lunging, and one of the scariest shrieks you'll ever hear in the middle of the night. They'll also eat pretty much anything they can get a hold of, too. They don't habitually go for people, although they will defend themselves if they're cornered. With such a powerful bite, you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end. Good thing the Tassie devils would much rather escape as well. You're walking along the riverbank. It's quiet, save for the water's peaceful burbling. The hot Georgia sun beats down on your neck. That's when you notice something strange on the ground. Looks like a quarter-sized black coin with a weird pattern on it. You bend over for a closer look. Is it a coin? This thing looks like an ancient seal with a symbol carved in it. It's probably from some long-lost civilization. You could sell it and make a fortune. You crouch down on one knee to pick up your newfound treasure. As soon as your finger touches it, you pull your hand back as fear wells in your gut. It's hairy. You go to pick it up again, digging your nails in the dirt around it to pull it out of the ground. That's when it moves. Your heart jumps in your throat. It's pounding so hard you can feel it in your head. The fear turns to horror when the coin wiggles its way out of the ground. It's no ancient treasure, it's a huge spider. A ravine trapdoor spider, to be precise. This hard coin-looking growth on the back of its body serves as a shield. The eight-legged terrors burrow into the ground and plug it like a cork, so hungry enemies can't get to them. Or, giant confused humans like you. The spider is venomous, but its bite isn't toxic to humans. Whew, lucky you. But I didn't say you wouldn't feel it. Best stay away from those sizable pincer-like fangs. Ow! Well, so much for your riches. Perhaps fortune awaits you in Mexico's Baja California peninsula. You're walking on dried-up ground when you notice a long white stripe up ahead. You get closer. Oh, looks like a super long worm, you think to yourself. But it doesn't move like any worm you've ever seen. That's when you see it has arms and a head. This pale creature with black beady eyes is a Mexican mole lizard. It lives in the ground where all its dinner of insects and termites hang out. It rarely comes out, so you're pretty lucky to have seen this bizarre reptile. Now you're in a rainforest in northeastern Australia. Ahead, half hidden among the trees, you notice something large and round. This mysterious figure lying on the ground is covered in black hair. At first, you think it's a bear curled up sleeping. But that wouldn't make any sense. There are no bears down under. You're getting closer when a twig snaps under your foot. The thing hears you and springs to its legs. It turns to you, and you now see this is a bizarre and beautiful bird. That black hair is actually a thick coat of long, fine feathers. This formidable fowl has a bright blue head with a large horn on top. It stands on two powerful legs with a dagger-like claw on each foot that can be as long as your hand. Take away those feathers, and you might mistake this thing for a velociraptor. But it's actually a cassowary, the most dangerous bird in the world. It could jump straight over your head if it wanted to, definitely high enough to kick you in the chest, and its blows are strong enough to break bone, not to mention that claw that can cut through anything like butter. This bird was made to hunt and avoid being hunted. Don't even consider running away, not unless you too can sprint over 30 miles per hour. Diving into that lake over there won't save you either. This bird is an excellent swimmer. Best just to back away slowly and hope it doesn't come after you. Another creature that proves it's best to keep your hands to yourself is the panda ant. The naming is obvious. It's black and white and furry like the beloved bamboo-chewing bear. This furry little bugger lives in the forests of Chile. But don't go to pet this fluffy little ant. What you're looking at is no ant at all. It's a species of wasp. That black and white coloring serves one purpose: to warn others of this insect's powerful sting. And if that doesn't make you back away, the wasp will let out a squeaking sound. It sounds cute to us humans, but it means a painful sting is around the corner. These insects are loners. They don't live in colonies and don't have nests. They're also parasites. A female panda ant lays eggs next to the larvae of another insect. Then the hatched babies use these larvae as food. Surely you've seen bugs that look like leaves and twigs. But what about a creature that looks like a beautiful orchid? You can find this fragrant flower in the forest or a green field among other plants. But make sure that's a flower you're leaning in toward to smell. If it's not, you risk being bitten by a praying mantis. The orchid mantis is nearly impossible to distinguish among the flowers. It has pink-white coloring with legs and claws that look identical to little petals. It uses its resemblance to the plant to hide from predators and hunt insects that love these flowers. A butterfly or a bee flies up to the flower when one of the petals starts moving. The unsuspecting meal might take it as simply the wind, but then the petal turns into a sharp claw that suddenly grabs the insect. Now imagine you're in the jungles of Costa Rica. You notice a brown snake sitting on a tree branch in front of your face. The snake looks like it's about to strike. Wow, you want to run away as far as possible, but notice that this snake is unusually short, and it doesn't lash out at you. You wait, but the snake keeps staring at you. It doesn't even hiss. Lucky for you, it'll never bite because it's not a snake, but a caterpillar. The hawk moth caterpillar can change the shape of its body to look like a menacing serpent. This easily scares away any hungry foes. The coloring and pattern on the skin imitates a snake's scales and eyes. This insect also knows how to move like a reptile. A master of disguise, this one. Let's get out of the hot jungle and head to Central Europe. You're in the middle of a sunny green meadow. Colorful flowers bloom around, birds sing, and bees buzz by. Among the bees, some are not what they seem. You'd hardly be able to distinguish the imposters. But if you look really closely, you'll see the golden bee fly moving through the air. It looks like a bumblebee, but it's the buzzer's biggest enemy. The golden bee fly sneaks into bee nests and lays eggs there. Its larvae hatch and feed on the bees and flower nectar. The yellow and black coloring allows the intruder to go undetected the whole time. The camouflage also keeps enemies away. Nothing would touch this fly if it thinks it'll get a bumblebee sting. The next spot on your journey is the rainforest in southern Thailand. Now, be extra careful and watch your step. Not because the next animal is poisonous or bites, but because you might actually step on it. The leaves from the trees have fallen and turned a gray-brown hue. Among these leaves, it's tough to distinguish the Malaysian horned leaf frog. Its body shape, coloring, and especially those pointy growths coming out above its eyes, all allow this amphibian to hide perfectly among the fallen foliage. This frog can sit for hours in one place, waiting for its next meal to come close enough to… Now you're in a garden. You see a beautiful bright flower and a small bird hovering near it. The bird flaps its wings so quickly you can hardly see them. And that long needle-like beak makes you immediately assume you're looking at a hummingbird. But as soon as you get closer, you realize this is not a bird, but an insect. Fortunately, the hummingbird hawk moth isn't venomous and doesn't sting. It's just a lovely little creature that decorates the garden with its presence. Many people even grow plants rich in nectar to attract these moths. Hey, that's an idea.
Why wouldn't you want to wade into this cool pond on a piping hot summer day? You dip into the refreshing water and enjoy the breeze. Everything's perfect. Until a dark shadow drifts by under the surface. You think it must be a leaf based on its size, so you don't pay it any mind. Until it bites you, right on your big toe! After running out of the water, you realize you've been the subject of a giant water bug strike. You've had the unfortunate chance to meet a toe biter, or sometimes called an alligator tick. You'll survive this monster's bite, but it will be unpleasant. Because giant water bugs are found worldwide in freshwater habitats, their bites are more common than any of us would like. Be on the lookout next time. Here's what you need to know to spot them. The giant water bug grows to be more than 4 inches long. According to Guinness World Records, that makes it the largest aquatic insect on Earth. A nip from one of them is said to be some of the most painful injuries a human can suffer from bugs. Although they can be found around the world, they're especially common in North America. They blend into the landscape. Their dark brown body mimics the leaves of the wetlands. No wonder you didn't spot it. They're predatory by nature, usually after small fish, tadpoles, and other insects. But they've also been known to take down bigger prey, like snakes and even turtles. Good thing you're much bigger than a turtle. In some species, female toe biters lay their eggs on the male's back. He then carries them wherever he goes. As sweet as that sounds, the sight of a male toe biter carrying his eggs is unfortunately super unpleasant and will send shivers down your spine. And what's worse, even though they're called water bugs, they can fly. So don't just watch out below, because they can come from the sky. As you catch your breath on the shore, something lands on your shoulder. Quick, swat it away! It's a botfly! Botflies are vicious tiny insects that lay their eggs in mosquitoes, injecting those eggs into humans. Your warm body temperature creates the perfect incubation environment. When they hatch, they start their lives with the grueling task of eating their way out. Lovely. You're most likely to find them in Central and South America, but it's not implausible for you to have an unlikely encounter with these small creatures in Florida as well. The name hammerhead worm calls to mind nothing good. It sounds like an impossible cross between a shark and an earthworm. Looking at one, that's not far off. Multiple sightings of this strange creature were reported across Georgia. They live up to their name, with a distinct crescent moon-shaped head. Well, what appears to be their head, their mouth is halfway down their bodies. Their appearance is off-putting for a reason. These babies are poisonous. They produce tetrodotoxin, the same as pufferfish. Scientists aren't yet sure how it uses the toxin, but the best bet is that it's a tool to catch its prey, other worms. We also don't know how much of it would hurt a human, but experts say to stay away no matter what. Especially don't harm it, because it has the spectacular ability to reform itself out of cut sections of its body, like the myth of the Hydra. Side note, someone with a great sense of humor nicknamed these grubs lanchovies, which sound much less scary than hammerhead worm. The giant silkworm caterpillar looks as intimidating as it should. Its potent venom is no joke. The larvae are sheathed in tiny spear-like bristles, which release a highly poisonous anticoagulant toxin. So getting pricked by one of these isn't ideal, but they make it even worse by gathering in bunches. So it's common to accidentally brush up against multiple caterpillars at the same time. Most people who are stung don't feel it. Oh, that's good, right? Well, no. It means they have no idea what's going on when symptoms appear. Plus, there's no visible mark left where they've been stung. One of the strangest things about this caterpillar is that it's super tiny compared to the damage it can cause, usually around 2 inches. They're commonly found in the rainforests of South America, including in Uruguay, Argentina, and Brazil. But plot twist, this creepy crawly doesn't just come in one form. The caterpillar is only in the first stage of its life. Yeah, that's what it looked like as a baby. Once it reaches adulthood, it takes on an entirely different shape as the giant silkworm moth. But don't be fooled into thinking it's harmless now because it's lost its vicious spikes. It's still venomous, and now it can fly. You can take comfort in knowing that it only lives for a few weeks in this form, though, because once it metamorphoses, it no longer has a mouth to eat with. The Australian funnel web spider toxin can take out an adult human in about 15 minutes. That's why it's widely considered the world's most dangerous spider. While all funnel web spiders are no darlings, this specific species takes the cake. They're relatively large and aggressive, with rear-facing fangs capable of piercing through your fingernails. The males often wander into human-populated areas in search of mates, and are much more likely to cause harm. They make their burrows in cool, sheltered areas, such as under rocks and inside rotting logs. Worst of all, they're commonly found in shrubs and rock groups in suburban districts. If you're not from Australia, you can feel relief since they're exclusively native there. If you are from Australia, pay close attention to your surroundings, and if you see one of these, stay far, far away. A word of good news, an antivenom was developed in 1981. Still, it's best to steer clear. Down on the bottom of the ocean in tropical areas, you might spot a beautifully patterned shell, like this one. They come in all colors and sizes, and look like tiny pottery vases made by little underwater potters. If you're like me, your instinct might be to reach out and pick it up and take it home as a souvenir. That's the last thing you ever want to do. This isn't just any old shell. It's the home of a cone snail. If that name doesn't strike fear into your heart yet, it will soon. Like most snails, the cone snail is slow, but it makes up for it with calculated moments of dangerous swiftness. They're predatory, seeking out other snails, fish, and marine worms. They sense potential food nearby using their nose and deploy a sharp needle-like proboscis to spear their prey. The harpoon-like beak is strong enough to penetrate fabric, even reinforced diving gloves. If you're a human, and I sure hope you are, you're not the cone snail's ideal meal. That doesn't stop it from stinging people that get too close. If it does sting you, you probably won't feel it because the venom that is injected in that instant is laced with a natural pain reliever. The lack of pain is actually what makes this snail so dangerous. Without knowing what's hit you, you may not register the sting symptoms until it's too late. So, if you see a pretty shell, stay safe by leaving it be. This minuscule bombardier beetle has a unique talent. When threatened, it can shoot boiling hot poisonous acid from its backside. It uses the stinky chemical spray to ward off predators and lash out against other insects. And it works well. Sometimes it even saves their lives after they've been swallowed. Frogs will often spit them back up once they taste their less than pleasant flavor. You might find one in many different ecosystems, from deserts to grasslands to thick forests. They're so versatile that they're found on every continent, except Antarctica. You've probably never noticed one before, because they're so tiny, only about the size of a fingernail. Incredibly, a potent spray can come from such a little bug. It can be because of an elaborate internal structure of chambers and reservoirs that combine two chemical compounds, hydroquinone and hydrogen peroxide. They're stored separately in reservoirs inside the beetle's abdomen. They pass through valves and meet in a central chamber to mix with an enzyme that kickstarts the reaction. Gases created in the reaction rapidly expand and produce massive amounts of heat. Whatever you do, you don't want to get on these little guys' wrong side. You might think that zombies only exist in the movies, but the threat could be much more real if you're a cicada. A fungus called Massospora has a unique goal that few other mushrooms share. It hitches a ride inside the bodies of the singing cicadas, overtaking the bugs' minds and turning them into real-life zombies. Affected cicadas act very unnaturally, with their only goal being to spread more of the fungus to other cicadas. The scariest part is that the insects stay fully functional the entire time, showing no sign that they've been taken over, besides their strange behavior, until it's too late. While they may not be a threat to humans, there's still something very unsettling about knowing that the buzzing bugs in the trees might be the creatures of scary movies.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.